Good evening, everyone. I'm Samir Lavingia, the chair of Manhattan Community Board 5. I am now calling to order the May 9th public hearing of Community Board 5. During this public hearing, members of the public are invited to speak for 2 minutes per person on subjects set forth in the agenda for this public hearing or any topic that relates to the affairs of the community district. If you would like to address the board before it votes on any matters tonight, now is your opportunity to do so. Although there will be a public session during the full board meeting later, that public session will be at the end of the meeting after all the votes have taken place. So if you want to address the board on any matters before it votes tonight, now is your time to do so. If you are in person and would like to speak during this public hearing, please fill out a speaker sheet, which you can find at the front desk, and give it to a staff member of Community Board 5. And if you are joining virtually and you would like to speak during this public hearing, please use the raise hand function now. When you are recognized, we will allow you to speak, but you must unmute yourself. In order to be heard, you will have to unmute yourself. I know that the borough president is on a tight timeline, and I believe a lot of people want to hear what he has to say. So, Manhattan Borough President, you are first up.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and hello, TV5. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person this month. I have a back-to-back schedule tonight, but I did want to address you on some important topics. First and foremost, I want to welcome 12 new members to the board. We just had an outstanding applicant pool this year. We really got lucky. And so thank you and congratulations to Morris Addis, Michael Greeley, Neil Miller, Yoden Thunden, Miranel Vikram, Mirazaki, Annie Rowland, David Shapiro, Ned Lager, Malik Fisher, Miles Kerwin, and Justine Witzke. You're going to love getting to know them. I'm really excited about this class. And I want to congratulate 15 returning members who were reappointed. Congrats to every one of you as well. I want to talk for a minute or two about the reappointment process because there's been some misunderstanding about that. And I want to talk about the anti-trans resolution passed by CEC2 and why I believe it is relevant to this board. First, on the appointment process. For the benefit of the new members who are still learning the ropes and some veteran members who seem to perhaps not be up on the facts. In the borough of Manhattan, appointment to a community board is a privilege. Now, that doesn't mean that we are looking for unanimity of opinion. As I said when I spoke to you last month, I value debates, as evidenced by the fact that 15 of you were reappointed with very divergent views. But we do have standards, high standards. We weigh every appointment heavily. We consider this process in detail. And we are looking for members who believe in the equality of every person in this borough, of every child in this borough, especially vulnerable children. We are looking for members who are willing to do the tough work of addressing the worst housing affordability crisis in the history of this city. And it is tough decisions to make. And we're looking for members who are going to roll up their sleeve and address the challenges that you face in your board, whether it's parks or health or transportation, and not spend all their time fighting other members. We have pressing issues that need work done in this board. We hold everyone to these standards. That is true whether you are a rank and file member, or whether you are a member of the executive committee, whether you are a chair, whether you have been nominated for an elected position, whether you might soon be nominated for an elected position. We do not lower our standards for anybody, whether you're a new member or a veteran member. And I certainly will not lower my standards for anybody. Good news is we got almost 900 applicants this year for 300 spots around the borough. And so we were in a position to be picky, and we have been. And it's why you've got 12 great members here in CB5. Now, as an aside, this board has opted to hold its election process or its nominating process during appointment season. Not every board does that. Some do it in the fall. That's your choice. But regardless, I look forward to a lot of people putting their hats in the ring as part of the nominating process tonight. I hope that every single seat that's up for election here on the board is contested. That's what I want to see. I think that'll be good for the board. Now, I want to address the issue of trans rights and what I consider to be a reprehensible resolution passed in CEC2, targeting vulnerable kids, targeting trans kids in a school system which, let's remember, serves pre-K to 8th grade kids. And let's be honest, this was not about youth sports. This was not people who care about youth sports standing up for youth sports. If that were the case, then maybe they would have addressed the fact that in schools around District 2, there's some schools that don't have a gymnasium. There's many more schools that don't even have a youth ball field outside. So if you want to address youth sports, let's talk about that. This is not about that. This is about striking a blow in a national culture war. And yeah, they did that. But a hell of a lot of us are fighting back because we're not going to let our trans kids be targeted in Manhattan. This resolution was not passed by a school board in rural Mississippi. This was our Manhattan. These were our kids. And I am really proud of how many community boards have reacted to this. By my recent count, community boards 2, 4, 6 have all passed resolutions denouncing this. Now, I haven't heard that out of this board. I'm very disappointed in that. I mean, these are your kids. This is not another state. These are your kids who are under attack. You know who is very happy with you? Maud Marone. Did you read her editorial in the New York Post today? Because you guys are the main characters. She is thrilled that you have entered this debate on her side. I don't think you want that. I don't want that for you. I am certainly not going to back down from this fight. I will never back down from protecting every kid in Manhattan, every vulnerable kid, every trans kid in CEC2 or any other school in this borough, ever. And now, finally, in closing, I want to urge you to get back to work. You have pressing policy matters in Midtown Manhattan that are desperate for your attention. You have coming down the pike the largest and most consequential housing land use action in a generation in New York City, in City of Yes. And you're just a few weeks away from game time on that. There are 100,000 apartments around New York City on the line, tens of thousands of affordable apartments on the line in City of Yes. You got to weigh in on this. You got to get back to work. There's a ton to do. So I implore you to get beyond this, to do the right thing, to stand up for vulnerable kids, to fight to end our housing affordability crisis, and to get back to work. Thank you. I'm happy I got a chance to address you on a very busy night. I'm sadly going to hop off now, but I wish you much luck in the rest of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Borough President Levine. We will now go to members of the public who handed in their speaker sheets who are in person, starting with Julie Chu. There's a mic at the podium. Yeah, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Chu, and I was appointed to the board in 2016. I've served alongside Craig Slutkin for the past 8 years. I had the privilege of working with Craig as assistant secretary when he was secretary and witnessed firsthand his outstanding and impeccable character. I don't like using the word always, but like Craig's perfect attendance on our community board, he has always been fair and kind. He watches out for people like me, the quiet ones, to ensure my voice is heard. I watched him during our emergency meeting, and he treated Samir with the utmost respect and dignity when others were giving Samir a hard time. His decisions are guided by what is right, both by law and by the highest values. I want to make it clear that condemning him and accusing him of ill will towards a marginalized group is wrong. It's said that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph in the world is for good men to do nothing. While we have faced many issues on this board, this one is the most crucial to me because it's not just about issues or conflicts of interest. It's about creating false accusations that would destroy someone's life. It's worrying that if someone like Craig Slutkin can be dragged through the mud, then any one of us can be. I hope that those who have had the opportunity to know and work with Craig will take the opportunities to support him in some way or other. I want to emphasize that Craig supports the transgender community, as do I. Our BEX committee has already reached out and is eager to host a presentation. I'm confident that together we are stronger and look forward to working together to advance the needs and protection of our transgender children in our community. I also want to highlight that the reasons for not reappointing Mary Brosnahan by the Manhattan Borough President have not been explained. Her dedicated work and respected leadership advocating for the unhoused over 30 years demonstrate her incredible value to our board and her support for marginalized individuals. Creating a false narrative that is politically divisive to distract and conceal the true issues at hand is unfortunately something we have witnessed before in recent months. Thank you.
Next up will be Sam Levy.
Was it the furthest place away? Does this work? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's working, cool. I did want to say that Mark and his decision did manage to unite the board mostly on something, which is pretty cool. Thank you, Chair. My name is Sam Levy. I've been a member of this board for 9 years. Let me start by saying that I believe the vast majority of members in this room tonight are working here in good faith. Regardless of the events of the last couple of weeks or few weeks, we're all volunteers. And in contrast to the people who appoint us, we do not get paid for our work. To that end, it was with utter astonishment that I found out on Tuesday, along with my colleagues, that 2 of our hardest working volunteer board members had been dismissed by the Manhattan Borough President's office. I say dismissed because had it simply been a case of not being reappointed, they would not have been expressly forbidden from attending their meetings as board members this month before their term ended. Whether their immediate dismissal was intentional or not, and regardless of our election date, that is the practical outcome. While we are all aware that we serve at the pleasure of the Manhattan Borough President, in my 9-year tenure on the board, I have never known of members being dismissed without specific cause. Moreover, I have never known of long-standing and respected officers of this board, both of whom were intending to run for election as officers, being dismissed without the dignity of an explanation as to the reason when that information was passed on to them. And finally, I am absolutely flummoxed as to how this occurred without the courtesy of an explanation to the chair of this board or to the executive committee, all of whom have said that they were caught completely unaware. As a result, the decision to dismiss these board members seems undemocratic, unjust, disrespectful, and punitive. I am keenly aware that by making these comments now, I'm putting my own appointment at risk as well. But given that the Borough President's office has been accused publicly of putting their fingers on the scale for certain candidates and lobby groups, the decision to dismiss 2 long-serving officers of this board has harmed its reputation regardless of the intent. Thank you.
Next up is Todd Shapiro.
Hi, my name is Todd Shapiro. I speak on behalf of my colleagues Craig Slutkin and Mary Brosnahan, who have served with honor and distinction on behalf of the public for many years. I unreservedly second the comments as to their character and ability mentioned tonight by my colleagues. Thank you, Craig and Mary. Both were denied reappointment for an additional term, despite records of distinguished service. I don't question the office's right to do so, but I question the wisdom. In CB5, the norm is that members serve 2-year terms and gain reappointment unless there are questions of attendance, failure to do their work, or gross malfeasance, which is not the case here. The case for non-renewal cannot be made against Craig and Mary. Rather, the reasons given in Craig's case are those pertaining to positions related to politically controversial topics, in this case on the issue of trans athletes in schools. In Mary's case, no public reasons have been given. Speculation is that it may be related to internal political issues regarding CB5's coming elections. In both cases, the timing of the non-renewals has directly impacted the possible outcomes. Our boards act as branches of local government closest to the people. According to the city charter, its members have the freedom to act independently. The subject to reasonable rules of conflict of interest. In CB5's case, this has been given in my years of service, the right to speak openly and to have the freedom to conduct its internal elections without interference of other branches is critical to our board's mission, to maintain its reputation for independence and to have the credibility to fulfill its role of advising on issues before the community. Board members' good faith decisions on even the most controversial issues or our board elections doing should not be subject to partisan politics of the other branches of government, as is arguably the case here. This should be a sentiment that all of our community boards and members can share. It's a matter of free speech and good government according to the intent of our city charter's framers. We do not want to set a new precedent for reappointment for our community boards that deviates from these goals.
Todd, please wrap up your comments. You're over time.
CB5 has set an example of independence and fair play for the entire city. Let's all work together to keep it that way. I know Mary and Craig have done so in their service on the board.
Next up is Aaron Ford.
How's the volume on this? Good. Okay. My fellow board members, the first thing I want to say to everyone in this room is a big thank you for serving as members for your community and volunteering your valuable time. Community boards are a very important part of community engagement in the city of New York. We all volunteer our valuable time to be part of this essential and time-consuming process of democracy at its core, the most hyper-local in the political spectrum as you get. It's unfortunate that several long-term board members were not reappointed this year. With the loss of these members, we lose years of expertise, leadership, and guidance for the board. I know that this board can continue to represent the community, and we can continue to have spirited debate, discourse, and most importantly, share different opinions and points of view that make this a dynamic, effective, and well-respected board. For the new members who are interested in learning about land use, housing, and zoning, please reach out to me over email. I'd love to meet each one of you. And welcome to the board tonight for the new members, and thank you very much.
Next up will be Joe Mafia.
Everyone hear me? No? Yes? I just want to say a few remarks. I echo what has been said already, and I really want to address to Mary and Craig and just give a personal thank you. Craig, you were the first one I worked with on licensing liquor licenses, and I was a newbie, just like many of you are today. You walked me through. I had no idea what I was doing. You showed me what to do. Very competent. Fast forward, Craig was the most qualified person on this board. He was running to be nominated tonight for chair, to opposing someone else, and the elections would have been next month. Do you think it's a coincidence that it happened right before this nomination, that he was quit, that he was not reappointed? But Craig, I want to thank you. I wanted to make this personal, as a personal thank you for all of your years of service, your professionalism, your objectivity, and your intellect, and your knowledge passed on by Vicky and Nick. Thank you so much. And Mary, I've been on 8 years, and I've just really got to know you, and there could not have been a more qualified person with housing and homelessness, and really. It's a major loss for both of you to lead this board. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Next up will be Charles Nye.
All right. The message is loud and clear, fellow board members. If you are not aligned with the views, beliefs, and the politics of the Manhattan Borough President's office, you will be ousted. You will not have your term again. You will be basically ousted. That is the message that we're getting today, and it's really scary because I thought we were in a free country, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And when people are affiliated with a group, it doesn't mean that they are going to be aligned with that group's thinking. And it's really tragic that this has happened. You know, by removing Craig and Mary, not only have we lost knowledge from Mary, who has a history in homeless services, and Craig, you know, with his background, and not only that, being a single parent in this district, you know, with a kid who goes to one of the very few schools in this district, we have lost the parental voice, which is really sad. But we've got to think, how does it feel for those, for the vice chair of the Parks Committee, now not having someone to mentor them, to help them in the transition into being the new chair? That's where I think it's outrageous. Not only that, but getting rid of two people just before an election, that is interference, that is undemocratic, that is un-American. It's really shocking from the borough office. I think it's really terrible that someone who is basically dictating how an election should be is so shameful. It is outrageous, and I'm thoroughly disgusted. We should be supporting politicians, not being in fear of them, and that's what's happening here. We have a dictator with his henchmen who is basically dictating how this board should think and act. We're meant to be independent. We're meant to be a mixture of voices, from pro-housing to pro-business, from pro-car to pro-bikes. We are a mixture of all different people with all different beliefs, and we all should be respected and respect each other and work together as a whole and represent all different voices of the community, because it's not one voice, it is a multiple collection of all diverse voices, from the poor to the rich, to the single parent, to the married parent, to, you know what I'm saying. So basically, you know, this is outrageous and it's despicable. It's really disgraceful. Thank you very much. And I won't be voting for Levine when he's up for re-election. I can tell you that right now. Thank you.
Next up will be Janice.
It has been horrifying to me to see how Craig Slutkin, oh, okay. Okay. It has been horrifying to me to see how Craig Slutkin, a long-serving colleague of our board, has been treated this week. While I've only known Craig for a couple of years, I have always seen him as a role model for how to conduct oneself on this board. When I started on this board, Craig was the vice chair of the State Licenses and Permits Committee, the position I occupy now. And I learned from him how to do the work, how to roll up my sleeves, and how to be an effective advocate for the community, which includes running effective community meetings and creating a safe environment where all voices can be heard, and difficult conversations can be had and worked out. And hopefully, if parties can't come to a consensus, everyone can at least have a better understanding of each other and what happened and why decisions are made. I learned that as soon as we stop treating each other as humans, as soon as we stop treating each other with respect and stop listening to each other and start calling each other names, we cannot do the work. We cannot fight for the vulnerable populations that need us to fight for them, and we cannot coexist. Craig Slutkin, as well as Mary Brahan, are victims of a larger political game, and I support both their longtime service to the LGBTQ and homeless populations, respectively, as well as our broader community.
Next up will be Mary Brosnahan.
I've been told slow and loud. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Mary Brosnahan. I'd like to welcome the new members to CB5. I've served for the past 4+ years on many committees, most recently on BEX and Land Use and Housing. I've also served as secretary for over 3 years. So why am I addressing you as a member of the public tonight and not sitting at the table with you? There's a lot of misinformation, including the presentation by our own borough president. So I just wanted to take a minute and set the record straight. Last week, at the BEX committee, someone raised the issue of the CEC resolution that sought to give parents a forum to discuss trans youth participation in sports. I stated very clearly, and I urge all of you, especially the new members, to go back and watch the YouTube recording of this. I stated that I am ardently pro-trans and that I felt that denouncing CEC did not go far enough. I asked that CB5 craft a resolution affirming our support of the right of trans youth to participate in sports, and we needed to do so to affirm them as equal members of our community. As a result, 2 days ago, I received a letter from Mark Levine stating that I was not being reappointed to CB5. Meaning that I should serve out my term, which ends on May 31st. The fact that I'm not sitting alongside you tonight and functioning in my elected role as secretary is a clear and unequivocal violation of the New York City Charter. By the time a court could rule on what is obviously illegal, it would be too late for me to participate in this meeting's discussion and debate, and that's an outrage. The rot of open New York is a contamination to the electoral process at large in our state and the governance within CB5. I am grateful to have served alongside many of you, but most especially I'm proud to have served alongside Craig Slutkin and to sit next to him tonight. To those members of goodwill and decency, I wish you the best of luck going forward. Thank you.
Next up is Tristan Hos.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tristan Hos. I just wanted to start off by thanking Craig for all of his years of service. You know, like Joe, we joined the same year. We were both on PSQL. And my first resolution, I remember going with Craig to the Skylark bar in Midtown Manhattan, and we were meeting with the restaurateur to talk about his future plans. And, you know, Craig just taught me so well about that experience. And, you know, in the years since, he went from, you know, being vice chair of that committee to being secretary to being vice chair of the board. And I thought he's done, you know, a tremendous job, even if, you know, we haven't always seen eye to eye on like every single issue, which is normal and okay. So thank you so much for your service, Craig. And Mary, you know, we haven't worked together as long, but I want to thank you for your service as well. I do want to say that, you know, I didn't agree with everything Mark Levine said. I think we have to be cognizant of like the things that we've done to create the incentive structure to make us open to this, right? So the hysteria the past 3 years about open New York, the chatting with the press, leaking news, even to today, the back and forth, have made the political incentives such that in the past few meetings, we've had political aspirants there videoing themselves, ranting about open New York and this board and the corruption and talking about, you know, blaming it at Levine. People in this board doing that, going to the press in public and in private. And we've really opened ourselves up to just being subsumed by the culture war to the extent that like actual politicians now are talking about this board and our anti-trans position, which, you know, the people on this board are not anti-trans, right? And we've been trying, I know like Renee has been reaching out to CEC, to schools, to have representatives come to speak at BEX so that we can actually evaluate the issue and not just take a position that, you know, frankly, like I'm not qualified to talk about, you know, all of this. Like we need professionals to talk about this and representatives to talk about it. And so I think one thing is clear is going forward, like we need to move past this and get back to the actual work and focus on the issues. And it is a shame that like we were about to be done with this, I thought, separate from this, because we're gonna have an election and someone would get elected and then we move on. And the fact that this happened in the middle of this really prevents us from doing so. So I think it's a real shame, and I really want to thank them for the service, but we need to get back to work.
All right, last speaker is Craig Slutkin.
Welcome to the new members.
Sorry, when I started this job, I didn't need reading glasses. So long time. So I want to thank everybody who came out tonight, and I mean everybody, because it's good to have open dialogue. That's what I've always advocated for, people to be able to express their opinions. When I started my high school, we all pledged, this is what we do at my high school, to leave our city greater than we found it. And that's why I joined the community board over a decade ago. This isn't part of my professional career. I don't harbor any political ambitions to use this to go from office to mayor. I did it to contribute to my community. And I believe I have done that with aplomb, with honor and integrity. Whether it's fighting for our parks to be havens for our families, or helping residents make sure a loud bar doesn't keep them up all night. I've done some very interesting things, but I've also taken the mundane tasks that most people don't want to do and appreciate: the minutes, attendance records, even assuming some administrative tasks when we move between district managers. I challenge anyone to give me a time on this board where I acted dishonorably, when I was a bad actor, rude, discriminatory, quashing dissension, or showing disrespect. I always brought people together. I always listened to everyone. And that's why I was entrusted with leadership roles very early on. There are important people who are now questioning my service, using things that they've probably never bothered to read to impugn my integrity. But make no doubt about it, that's not what this is about. It's about powerful positions trying to exercise control. We're learning a lesson. Free speech and discussion, as long as it conforms to the narrative of the politician. Don't toe the line. Don't pass a resolution they tell you to. They will get rid of you. Don't support their candidates. They will get rid of you. It's not about a CEC resolution that I wasn't even a lead or a sponsor on, and only asked that stakeholders be allowed to discuss the issue. And I never said anything further about that, about a ban. Let's be honest, it's not about that. Otherwise, Ms. Brosnahan, a legend in homeless advocacy, would still be sitting at the table. I want everyone to be strong. Remember, regardless of who appointed you, you are here to serve the community, not politicians and not the lobbyists. Do what feels right, not what will get you reappointed. I have worked with so many fine people. It'll be finished in a moment.
Thank you.
Vicky, I've worked with so many fine people. Vicky, Nick, Clayton, Mary, both Renees, Aaron, Julie, Todd, the amazing district manager who mentored me, Wally Rubin, and so many others. I don't know what people will hold, but I can tell you this: my advocacy for our community will not end. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other speakers in the room, we will go to online, starting with Amelia DeCoten. Marisa, are you promoting? Yes, please. Amelia DeCoten.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Amelia. I am a transgender rights activist as well as a district leader.
Sorry, Amelia, could you give us 1 second? We need to turn up the speaker and we'll reset your timer. Is it possible to make it a little bit louder? Josh, can you reset the timer and we'll start over? Yeah, Amelia, feel free to start.
Well, my name is Amelia DeCoten. I am a transgender rights activist as well as a district leader representing my community in Queens. I work in Manhattan CB5 and as well as New York City, the Manhattan School District 2. And this issue is very important to me. The question of whether transgender girls and boys in schools can participate in sports is broader than this community board. It's broader than Manhattan CEC2. And it's broader than just an internecine issue about who is appointed to what. And the reason why I'm commenting now is to highlight how important this is and how grateful I am for the borough president for taking a strong stand here. The perspective of just asking questions or just opening a space up to debate has been used throughout history to undermine the rights of marginalized people. And trans people are just the latest group of marginalized people on the chopping block for this issue. I question the judgment of someone who claims to be an advocate for LGBTQ people who doesn't understand this, or is trying to hide behind the fact that they're just asking questions while creating a space to, it's the parents of trans kids and their children to assume that we need a professional's opinion to know that this is bigotry and that this is something that we should all be standing against, and to act like that being not reappointed to a volunteer board, which as our borough president stated is a privilege and a right, is somehow silencing valid political views and not adequately responding to bigotry, however insidious or subdued. If Mr. Slutkin really opposes this resolution, he should say so flatly rather than just saying that he's just asking questions. And I hope that the board recognizes that this isn't just a question of politics. This is really a question about bigotry and marginalization, and that it doesn't always play as the way that people think.
Next up is Vicky Barbaro.
Good evening. As a 30-year member, serving the last 15 years as chair of Manhattan Community Board 5, I am appalled by the borough president's recent refusal to reappoint Craig Slutkin and Mary Brosnahan, two valued members of CB5. I think it's important that everyone know what the process is that has been followed each and every year regarding reappointments to the board. The staff at the borough president's office meets with the chair and district manager of the community board to go over the participation of those members who are up for reappointment. The first concern is regular participation, and so absence is of the utmost importance. Additionally, the board chair is asked about each individual as to whether or not they are taking on and fulfilling assignments at the committee level in particular. Board members who have not participated or completed assignments regularly are discussed, and upon recommendation by the chair of the board, they may be removed. I have never seen a member removed without cause. This time around, the process took place after I left the board. I have no way of knowing what transpired at the meeting with the borough president's office this year, but I can tell you that had I been involved, there is no way that either Craig or Mary would be able to even be considered for removal. All you have to do is look at the background, the work, the participation of both of these individuals. Both have served and are experienced in public service, caring deeply for our community and its people. The one thing they have in common is that they have both vocally opposed the infiltration of special interests onto community boards, and in particular on CB5. Given the foregoing, someone had to speak disparagingly or simply took umbrage with their concerns, raise special interests and conflict of interest.
Please wrap up your remarks.
In the short time I have in this forum, I can only tell you that I cannot speak highly enough about both Craig and Mary and their commitment and time given to the board and their community. It's obvious someone or ones were in disagreement with Craig and Mary, and their removal without cause is a direct violation of the New York City Charter. Personally, I would like to know for what reason and on whose recommendation these two
Please
valued
wrap up your remarks.
respected members were even considered to be removed as members of CB5. They should be reinstated immediately. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Salvator Franchino.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, so I'm Salvator Franchino, and I've worked at CB5 at various employers for 10 years, which is my entire working career. And I just wanted to say that growing up in Florida, I was bullied in school by students and parents alike. And I think there is something particularly insidious about someone's parents going after a child for being different in any way whatsoever. And I will say that based off my experiences in school and as a gay man, I applaud the choice not to reappoint Craig Slutkin to CB5. He was not reappointed with the cause that Mark Levine already stated previously. I believe his public statements and support for resolutions in his CEC role fit my definitions of bullying and transphobia. I find it highly inappropriate to single out children and exclude them from school activities because of their gender minority status. And parents, like, they should not be bullying students out of sports or anything at all. Like, just wanting to open up a conversation, that is, like, it's a sham we all see through. Like, who do you want to have a conversation with? Like, bullies and transphobes? Like, let's just have a conversation with trans kids, ask how they can feel comfortable in their lives at school, rather than people like Craig imposing himself on someone else's children. Like, let's remember, we live in a society, we need to look out for each other, and we need to make sure that those in a position of power don't wield it to infringe on human rights. And Craig chose to use this platform to make gender minorities feel targeted. And so that's why I believe the correct decision was made not to reappoint him. I do know a few folks on CB5. They are all a class act because they treat folks with dignity and respect. And the same does go to Eric Botcher and Tony Simone, who have also issued similar statements. So I want the CB to continue to advocate on my behalf. And I do wish the best for Craig. And I hope that over time he can become an advocate for all of us within the LGBTQ umbrella. Thank you.
Next up is Mario Missina.
Good evening. I am Mario Messina. I'm the president of the 29th Neighbor Association. I'm sorry, but it is the middle of the night for me. I am speaking from Europe, and the issues that we have on the table tonight are too important for me to forego and not to be part of your meeting. Although I happen to agree with the board president and the elected officials that the debate is healthy, I do not agree with their recommendation to scrap the resolution that this board is about to vote on. Because in the spirit of true democracy and in a fair debate, there is no reason for special interest, especially when they do not care about the quality of life of the residents, but they only care about what will increase the opportunity to eliminate democratic choices and control the process, which is only going to profit them. I hope that the board president, who has spoken so passionately about the issue of the transgenders, which I support entirely, will work with us with the same passion in the issues that they are ahead of us. I am terribly sorry and disappointed for what is happening to Craig and Mary. I worked with Craig for many years. I had the opportunity to test his fairness, to see him hard at work, and to do a lot of good for our community. I don't think that it is fair, the mud that is being thrown at him. Greg, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And dear board, we are been working with you for years. We look forward to working with you as long as the democratic process remains fair and transparent. Thank you.
Next up is Melissa Sclars. Melissa, can you speak?
Yes, I'm all set. Hi, everyone. How are you? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Excellent. Let me start my phone again. Nice. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to speak on behalf of this situation. I'm very grateful. My name is Melissa Sclar. I'm the first transgender person appointed to Community Board in Manhattan in New York City. Borough President C. Virginia Fields, Google her, it was a few years ago. With Amelia, I am one of 2 transgender elected officials in New York City as a district leader, unpaid, volunteer. I served on the community board. I was on the executive committee. I'm very grateful to Borough President Mark Levine for standing up for underserved communities and for transgender people. Here in Community Board 5, this seems to be something about Vice Chair Slutkin, and it's not. A seed has been planted that is already branching out and gone so far past this neighborhood, but in fact, city and regionally wide, and already is getting unwanted, unnecessary media coverage, creating a situation for a problem that does not exist. I think Vice Chair Slutkin made a mistake. How the borough president handles it is his business. That's his prerogative. I think the CEC 2 vote was terrible. I think it'll grow. I think it sends out a terrible message to families all around about what minorities and diversity can expect in Manhattan and New York County, the beacon of freedom, the birthplace of Stonewall. And I can assume when I listen to all the praise for Mr. Slutkin, I'm sure he has done a wonderful job. I think he's made a mistake here. This will give him an opportunity to go back and review and get a sense of what trans community is like and being a trans child in New York City is like. Thank you for this opportunity.
Next up, we'll have David Keelis.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. My name is David Kalis. I'm president of the West 50s Neighborhood Association. I've worked with Craig for over 9 years. I just want to say there's nobody on the board more qualified to serve than he is. I'm upset to hear about what has happened to Mary. These are 2 great people, and this is not the way to handle the situation properly. In my remaining few seconds here, since we're discussing these things, I just want to ask the Land Use Committee that when they're discussing the city of yes and affordable housing, to make sure that this concept, city of yes, doesn't become a giveaway to the real estate industry. All right, everybody, I wish you all well. My best to Craig and Mary, and I hope to see you all soon sometime. Thank you.
Next up will be Lisa Wager.
Hi, my name is Lisa Wager. I'm the Director of Government Community Relations at the Fashion Institute of Technology, the SUNY College on West 27th Street. I'm here to share a few updates. It's the time of year when the Graduating Student Exhibition presents the work of more than 600 student graduates in 16 areas of study from the School of Art and Design. The work is the culmination of each student's unique experience in FIT's diverse, challenging, and demanding undergraduate art and design programs and features juried, award-winning, and thesis projects. It's pretty marvelous. The GSE work manifests years of research, experimentation, critical thinking, and artistic skills building, and wonderfully illustrates the college's philosophy of integrating practice in industry with theory and teaching inside the studio. If you come and visit, you can see work from the departments of toy design, textile, surface design, fashion design, packaging design, menswear, illustration, jewelry design, advertising and digital design, photography and related media, animation, interactive media and game design, footwear and accessories design, and interior design. The exhibition will be up from this Tuesday through the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. It's throughout campus, but much of it is in the museum at FIT, which is free and open to the public 5 days a week and late on Wednesday through Friday. You can find more information at fitnyc.edu/GSE. And here's a cool bit of DIY sustainability from a team of 4 students from the School of Business and Technology. They were selected to represent the United States at the annual Retail World Congress in Paris, in an international competition where students present real-life ideas to real-life CEOs from around the world. The brief was to devise a campaign that would help a retailer reduce Scope 3 emissions. That's the carbon footprint a company contributes to, even if it doesn't directly produce it. The team's concept, hang up reduced carbon emissions, just 5 more seconds, along with extending the lifespan of the garment. If retailers suggest we simply hang our jeans up to dry rather than put them in the dryer, how easy is that? And also, if we wash them in cold water, we save even more. So there you have it, something we can all do very easily. Have a great rest of the evening. Thank you.
Next up will be Stephanie Fox.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Fox. I am a transgender woman and I work in Manhattan. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I've heard a number of people that are members of this board speak today that people were kicked off for their political beliefs. It's very hard for me to hear that over and over again, mostly because as a transgender woman, my existence is not a political belief. I'm a person. I deserve my humanity, and shame on you for reducing that to a political belief or a mere disagreement. Now, schools. Back when I was a child growing up in the 80s and 90s, homophobia, transphobia, all of that was rampant. I remember being beat up every single day for being an effeminate person and called the F slur. School is supposed to be a safe place for children. Unfortunately, fortunately, we've come a long way since I was a child, and we've allowed people to express themselves in ways that were not possible when I was a child. And I'm so happy for today's youth to have that opportunity. However, people today are trying to backslide on that progress that we've made. I want to note that the resolution that was passed at the CEC was not for a mere discussion. Several specific points on that resolution were inherently transphobic. Several points explicitly stated that trans women are a separate group than quote unquote females. So I come here to say thank you so much, Mark Levine, for not reappointing a person who has expressed transphobic beliefs, and shame on every single one of you that has spoken up. It's only a shame that we don't have more members of this board that stand up against transphobia. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next up is Lealagaso.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Lealagaso. I am deeply concerned about the removal of 2 very important and respected and valuable members of Manhattan Community Board 5. This decision comes across as a purge aimed at 2 members who vocally oppose the infiltration of special interests onto community boards. Perhaps the words of Voltaire are more fitting than ever. I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend to the death the right to say it. Mary Brahan and Craig Slutkin's term is over at the end of the month. They were told by the borough president recently that they were not reappointed, which is a decision he has the right to make. But they remain members and officers until the end of their term, May 31st. I am shocked and deeply troubled to hear that Tuesday, CB5 would not permit them to participate in the executive committee meeting, and even more concerned that they were denied their right to fulfill their duty tonight. The charter states expressly that appointed members may be removed only for cause. As you know, CB5 is now dominated by Open New York members. The decision to bar Craig and Mary from the meeting and presumably from all decision-making is in direct violation of the charter. The issue here isn't their remaining days on the board. The issue is whether Open New York and their members and employee of the organization that now sits on CB5 are as open as they claim to be. If they were, in fact, interested in transparency and communication, they would not be playing the games they're playing. I don't need to repeat what I have and others have said. The organization is supported by powerful real estate interests funded by a tech mogul from California who does not have New York City's best interest in mind. I have tried to call attention to the conflict of interest that Open New York's insinuation in the city's community boards have created, but it seems to have fallen on deaf ears.
Please wrap up
CB5's
your
treatment
remarks.
of Craig and Mary reflect the organization's hostility to anyone who would question their motives and have different opinions on housing. This latest incident only confirms what I've been saying. Open New York modus operandi is diametrically opposed to the values of participatory democracy. Thank you.
Please wrap up. Thank you. Next up will be Nick Athanale.
Thanks, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Thank you. I have to speak tonight about Craig Slutkin, not about how his untimely removal from the board will cause yet another election crisis for you, but about his character and how undeserving he is of the negative narrative we're now hearing about him. Craig was my close colleague on CB5, as well as many of yours, for over 10 years. You know him as well as I do, and I'm sure you would agree that his comportment on the board has always been impeccable. I'm disturbed by recent statements about Craig, which paint a completely misleading picture of his stance on transgender issues, depicting him as oppositional. I can assure you that nothing is further from the truth. Craig's personal beliefs and consistent behaviors have demonstrated an inclusive and supportive approach to all individuals, irrespective of their gender identity. The position Craig supported on the CEC was not anti-trans, but that is not how it's now being characterized. This misinformation serves no one and only acts to further deepen the divides in our community. Many of you know Craig as well as I do. And because we know that this is wrong, I feel it's imperative that we restore his reputation based on his actions and proven track record. Regardless of whom you would have voted to nominate for chair tonight, I ask you to not support the baseless character attack we're seeing against Craig. Thank you all.
Next up will be Kosak Das.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
How do I turn on my video? It's not.
I
Can you reset,
don't know
please?
if you-
Just for... All right.
Sorry.
Can you reset the time, please?
Yeah, can we reset the timer, Josh? All right.
So someone early from the community board spoke about speaking in good faith. Mark Levine does not speak in good faith. He does not care about kids. He does not care about affordable housing. He does not care about CB5. And all you trans people who spoke passionately today, I assure you, he does not care about trans anyone, kids or adults. You have been duped. All Mark Levine cares about are sound bites for his next political run. He is corruptly selling out to groups with money that will back him, which in this case includes Open New York. My name is Kosak Das, and I know this because I'm the former VP of CECD2. I call Mark Levine a coward who slinks away under fire. How do I know this? Because when I had a meeting with him, with my secretary on CECD2, we questioned Mr. Levine's conspicuous lack of interest in any educational activities, even though he's a teacher by background. He is a goddamn coward. He took his ball and ran away that day when we criticized him, and he has done so today. He is also a goddamn liar. He says he fights for children and every kid in Manhattan. Bullshit. On that resolution, on that list of resolutions that same day that we're discussing, Craig Slutkin and other members of CCD2 also had a resolution for Narcan in every school, which is naloxone, which prevents overdoses in children. Mark Levine didn't talk or care a shit about that. Also on the list was Geo Priority for District 2 students and Manhattan students.
For 4 years straight, Mark Levine's borough and District 2 have had the worst performing high school placements 4 years straight on any metric. He has been aware of this for 4 years and has done nothing. Beyond that, Craig Slutkin. Craig Slutkin was targeted. He did not present the resolution. He did not sponsor the resolution. All he did was vote. So now Mark Levine is targeting someone because of their vote. And we say it's not because of his high standards? No. If that were the case, he also wouldn't dismiss Mary
Please wrap up your
Brosnahan.
remarks.
Clearly, this is all political. He says he has high standards. Yes, he does have high standards. He has high standards only for people who kiss his ass. He is a coward.
Please
He's
wrap up your
lying.
remarks.
You have no standing, Mr. Chair, because you are
All right, we will move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Clayton Smith.
Hi, I'm Clayton Smith. I served on CB5 for 13 years. I was chair of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee with Craig Slutkin as my vice chair. I have missed being of service on the board, but it is so disheartening to see how the rancor, dysfunction, and acrimony on this board have ruined its reputation as the most impactful, effective, and highly functioning community board in all of New York City. It's no longer the case, and it is heartbreaking and maddening to witness. There is an urgent need for the immediate reinstatement of Craig Slutkin and Mary Brosnahan to the board. They were suddenly not reappointed at the last hour just before running as chair in Craig's case. The reasoning for the removal is a ruse. No one in my many years on the board, including myself, has a more even-handed approach and equitable assessment of matters of import to the public interest than Craig Slutkin. I recall countless times that Craig would offer a counterbalance to me as committee chair, as I was never one to hide my initial inclinations about an application before us. Process is meaningful to him, and no one is more balanced and faithful to the public good. He should be reinstated at once. Now that I am a member of the public, I can also say that this is some next level bullshit. To all of you who are reasonably minded members of the board, fight. Fight for your voice, fight for the reputation of the board, and fight for the best interests of the people of Community Board 5, even if this means going against leadership, even if this means going against your district manager. The best interests are not the interests of Rebney, so pay close attention. They have been coming for us for years, and it looks like they have gotten here. Thank you.
Next up will be Pri Bopari.
Hello?
Yes, we can
Perfect.
hear you.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'd like to voice again my concerns that others have brought up. It's disheartening to hear that someone as dedicated as Craig Slutkin is facing dismissal for a single vote, a vote in which he was asking for parental involvement, especially considering his long-standing support for all underrepresented communities. And when I mean all, including LGBTQ, trans, and other communities that what make New York City beautiful. And his commitment, it's all been his commitment to community service. It's important to recognize and appreciate the contribution individuals like Craig make to our communities, rather than focusing solely on isolated incidents. Everyone deserves the opportunity to learn and grow, and one vote should not overshadow years of dedication and advocacy he's done. It's crucial to value and support those who selflessly serve their communities, and like Craig, to encourage continued engagement and participation in community initiatives. Thank you.
All right, those were all the speakers online and in person. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? This is your last chance before we enter the public hearing. I see two people have raised their hands. Julie LaBelle.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, great. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for giving me the time to speak. I just wanted to say that I am one of the constituents in Craig's district. He actually, his child and my daughter go to the same school. And I wanted to make it very clear as a parent, also a single parent who has a child who's going to the school, Craig literally is just voting on behalf of all of the parents to allow us to have involvement. It is not him being transphobic or any kind of trans anything. He, as everyone else has indicated who knows him, is very, very open to everyone's ideas, opinions, and thoughts. He is very good about listening to others' points of views and making sure those that do not get represented are being represented and heard. He's also smart enough to know that if you want any idea to get passed with the best resolution, you need to involve all the parties involved. And by him voting to allow parents to be involved and see behind the scenes, so to speak, about what would be happening in the schools, it empowers the parents to be on the journey with everyone. And then no matter what decision it comes to at the end, they are part of it and they're more likely to embrace it. And I think it's very sad. It's devastating that his reputation has been maligned in such a way simply because he took a vote on behalf of the constituents of his district, simply to allow them the opportunity to take the journey with everybody else to learn and start to accept and understand what's going on in our world and embrace it. He is truly a wonderful person, and I am privileged to know him, have him represent me, and I am very saddened that he has been removed from the board, and I would recommend that that be changed immediately, as he's been such an advocate for everybody and all of our rights. Thank you, and thank you for your patience with me.
Great. Next up is Gabriel Lowenstein or Lewenstein.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. My name is Gabriel Lewenstein, and I'm the president of the Stonewall Democratic Club of NYC. We're an organization that works citywide to advance the rights and equity of LGBT community, and I also work in Community Board 5. I'm here this evening to thank Borough President Levine for his comments tonight and his strong voice in support of trans children. And I want to emphasize for everyone who's spoken tonight that the CEC2 resolution was targeting trans kids. Members of the board were informed of the implications before the vote, and it was explicitly conjuring up fake concerns about a marginalized community when no concerns had been raised by anyone but arch conservatives whose express goal was to deny trans people existence. The sponsors of this resolution were known to harbor explicit anti-trans agendas, and the CEC2 resolution was intended to send the message that trans kids did not belong in CEC2 and they should be questioned and ostracized. This belief directly translates to bullying and harassment of trans kids who already face enough challenges in society without being questioned when all they want to do is play sports with their friends. The CEC2 members were made aware of this beforehand with education, with speakers, with advocacy, and more. And pleading ignorance as to what message this would send is simply false. Actions have consequences, and pretending to be a victim after unleashing hate towards kids is disingenuous. I thank Borough President Levine for making clear that trans rights are non-negotiable, and I really do appreciate everybody's words this evening in support of the trans community. It's absolutely under attack nationally and now locally, and the trans community needs our support. So as I joined your meeting a month ago, I again come back to urge you all to demonstrate that you too are committed to upholding the dignity and equality of all, and to take up a resolution rejecting CEC2's resolution, as Community Boards 2, 4, and 6 have already done. And thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next up will be Chien Kwok. Chien, you will have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm a friend of Craig's. I've worked with him for many years in education advocacy. I'm a former CEC2 member. I didn't participate in the vote, but I know the resolution. Many of the people who speak out against Craig and the resolution haven't really read the resolution. It's really just for a discussion to be had with all interested and affected parties of those who are in sports and who will be affected by biological males participating in girls and women's sports. Why does only one party have a say in how sports participation is designed and access to girls and female spaces is given? Why? That's not inclusive. Now you're marginalizing girls. Women and girls have fought for many, many years for their right to get Title IX sports, right to sports, and also their own physical spaces that are not intruded upon by biological males with penises. That, as a father of a daughter, I find that something that needs to be discussed by all parties involved and impacted. That's what the resolution called for. And for anyone to suggest that it is an attack on trans kids, it is not, because there's sports that's available for all kids. There's boys sports and girls sports. They can go into sports, but whether or not boys, biological males, can go into female sports, that should be discussed with people who will have to be involved in that sport, namely girls and women. To have that discussion is transphobic. I'm sorry, but that's anti-women, that's misogynist. And as a member of the LGBT community himself, he's the best position to make the decision. And I think it's very well balanced just to have a discussion about it. No decision made, but to hear every party, because it seems like only one side of the story is being told, and that's not fair. That's not inclusive. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. So because I made a call for additional speakers, are there any additional speakers who would like to speak before we enter the full board meeting? If you're online, please raise your hand. Sure, we have one new member who would like to speak. Morris. There's a mic up there already. Hello.
Hi, everybody. My name is Morris Adis. I joined this board today. This is my first hour here. I am so shocked at the division and the discontent and the lack of leadership and direction here. I joined this board with one goal, and that's to improve the lives of people in my community board. It seems that there is so much work that needs to be done here, and I'm most certainly not a seasoned veteran of this board. I'm a concerned citizen, and it's evident that this community board deserves leadership that is accountable, ethical, and dedicated to serving the needs of all the residents, regardless of background or affiliation. I welcome all members of this board to please reach out to me because I would like to learn more about what's going on here and offer my help in taking this board forward and progressing on so that we can actually produce value for the residents of Community Board 5 and reinstate what we all should stand for as community members, as fellow humans, and as, in good decency. And, I welcome anybody to please, come up to me after this meeting and tell me more about what's going on, because I'm very confused. I've only been here for an hour, and I want to create value for everybody here, and I want to be an instrumental member of this community. So, thank you.
All right, seeing no more speakers, we are closing the public hearing. I will now call to order the full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm Samir Levingia, the chair. Catherine Ellington will be our secretary pro temp for this meeting if there is no objection. We'll start our full board meeting by hearing from any elected officials that are in attendance and wish to address the board. The elected officials will be followed by any representatives of other electeds who may report to the board for 2 minutes each. Please be aware that I will do my best to limit speakers to 2 minutes per person, as we have important resolutions to discuss this evening. This board then enters into its business session, which consists of a roll call vote to adopt the minutes, or the March and April minutes, the chair's report, committee reports, and resolutions with a comment and question period, and then voting. Comments or questions from either applicants or the public, if additional information is needed, are only allowed with the chair's approval. We will then follow with new business. Lastly, we will then conduct a public session for those who would like to address the board on any item that was not covered during the meeting and that did not speak to during the public hearing, followed by adjournment. I will start this evening's meeting calling on elected officials. Please use the raise hand feature if you would like to speak. We have one elected with us in person. Harvey Epstein, would you like to begin?
Good evening, everyone. On? Yeah, great. So I remember my first community board meeting. I just got appointed by Margarita Lopez, and I got to my first meeting, and the meeting lasted till 2 a.m. And so it was, I would say, fireworks would be an understatement about what was going on at the time in that community board 3, around views of the future in the neighborhood and disagreements around, people were just removed from the board, other people were just appointed to the board. And this is something that, happens all the time. So for the new board members, I think there's a dozen of you. Welcome. And community board service is complicated, but vitally important. It is how we as New York City get things done, and the relationship that the community boards have to access to real change in this city is fundamental. So while it may be a stressful time for a lot of people, it is an important time for people to really dig in and figure out the future of this neighborhood. So I have a couple events that are coming up. They're really simple events. We're like doing a shredding event in a couple of weeks. Well, actually next weekend at Union Square. We have some other events that we're happening there's been in our newsletter. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the budget because its impact that it's going to have on our neighborhood. And then I do want to take a minute just to talk about the CEC resolution. So I don't know if people paid attention to the state budget. There was a lot of things in it, a lot of good and a lot of less good. But one thing that really impacts us all is this housing plan. And the main impacts that it has that people know is for Manhattan, lifting this 12 FAR cap is going to really have a lot of risk and opportunity for redevelopment and rezoning is in our neighborhood, the conversion from commercial to residential, and the tax credits to go along with that. We've set aside 25% of the units to be permanently affordable, both in the tax credits, the 485 X, as well as in the commercial to residential conversions. We have some a new basement pilot project. We have a new potential Mitchell-Lama, that's statewide, another $150 million for Mitchell-Lama, $80 million to preserve the existing Mitchell-Lamas. And so there's this new thing called Good Cause, which protects tenants who are in buildings that are, an owner has 10 or more units, the rent's below, it's called 245% of the fair market rent. Complicated formula. If you look at the HCR website, I'll give you some more information. I was at Waterside the other day, which is obviously on the east side, and that's going to provide rent protections for over 700 families that live there. So there's a lot of good for people who rent stabilized apartments. We changed the threshold. We increased the threshold for individual apartment improvements. For some tenants, that would be bad. For developers, think it wasn't enough. This is going to be the plan for the next 10 years. So why did I lead with the 12 FAR issue? Because I think that's going to be really impactful on ULURPs and zonings that are going to come before this board. And over the next decade, you should have high expectations that there's going to be opportunity for this community board to weigh in, whether with this mayor or future mayors, about potential redevelopment and redesign in this neighborhood. And what that means will be this neighborhood could substantially change or not, depending on the outcome of some of these decisions. People know the board is advisory, but there's a lot of power that the community board has in the ULURP process. So I hope people will spend some time thinking about this and digging into it. And also, realizing the role that people have and community planning roles that the community board has. Some call them 197A plans, but there are like real plans that the community can have around development or lack of development and what the pros and cons that it'll be for the neighborhood. So the Good Cause, the 12 FAR, commercial to residential are really things that are potentially substantively change what our city looks like in the next 10 years. Just think about Lower Manhattan in a 10-year period, just on commercial to residential, 10,000 new apartments were developed in 10 years. So 10,000 new families have moved into a neighborhood that was mostly an office neighborhood that has become a vibrant residential neighborhood, not as mixed income as I think it needs to be. And so questions will be, how will that have impact in this neighborhood as well? So those are the things that I want to talk about. Lots of other stuff around tuition, child tax credits, got, access to insulin, making insulin free, closing all the cannabis stores. The mayor has the authority now to close every single weed shop all the illegal ones, because there's like 85 legal ones. There's only two in our neighborhood here. So all the illegal ones should be closed. So in theory, he started closing like a 20, I think 2 days ago. There's probably 2,000 that need to be closed. So if you see illegal weed stores, you can tell my office, or what you could do is just tell the sheriff and the mayor's office, or have the community board let them know, because he made a commitment to us within 30 days of us passing the law. He would close all the legal shops. His clock is really ticking fast, so he's got to move quickly. The more we tell him about that they exist, the better. And just on, baby supplies. I forgot to mention, we're doing baby supplies. People are giving birth at Bellevue. They don't have access to diapers and supplies. We're doing something with Kristen Gonzalez over the next 2 weeks. If people have access to those supplies, or there's an online donation to Open Heart Initiative, it's in our newsletter. We're just collecting for families in need. So now to the CEC. So I just want to be clear, but I guess disclosing, I have 2 kids who are queer. I have 2 nephews who are trans. So these conversations are personal. These are personal conversations about the future of our city. And so to my nephew, who's a New York City high school student who wants to play sports, the question about where they play and who they play with is a really important perspective for them. And, in this conversation that we're having around trans sports, I don't think we're recognizing the struggles that person is going through individually, to one, acknowledge who they are and find their true self, and then the acceptance of the larger society. And I think resolutions that came out of the CEC negatively impact them. And I think I appreciate families feeling like they want to make sure they stand up for sports, or women's sports specifically, is what I heard. But I also want people to acknowledge the impact that this is having on the queer and the trans community, and feeling safe in your own neighborhood, and safe in your own school, and safe with your own friends. And when we lose sight of that, we lose sight of the humanity. When we look at this as being a political statement instead of like a human interaction, what does that mean to that child who wants to go out for sports? What does that mean for that person who doesn't feel safe in their schools? So I heard a lot of parents talk about wanting to have a conversation, but the conversation that we're having nationally and here now in New York is a transphobic conversation, and it really negatively impacts children who are in the most vulnerable position already. So I just want to be clear about my position on that, and I hope that this board thinks wisely about its steps to ensure that our children who live in this neighborhood feel safe in their schools, and ability to be able to be the most productive self and most helpful self for themselves as they move forward. So thank you all. I'm sorry I took too much time. And I don't know, Samir, if you want, there's a question, or should I not?
You can take it if you like.
If there is one, but it doesn't have to be. Lovely. No questions. Thank you all. Have a very, thank you. I hope your meeting doesn't go till 2 a.m.
We have next up will be Alex Marinides. While he's coming up, if you are since I don't see any other electeds themselves, if you are elected representative, please raise your hand, and we will get to you after the elected representatives in the room. Please go ahead, Alex.
Am I good to go?
You are good to go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Alex Marinides. I'm with Senator Liz Krueger's office. My monthly update. Senator Krueger condemns the decision by a state Supreme Court judge to remove the ERA from the ballot in an attempt at derailing a historic step forward for New Yorkers. The state of New York will be appealing this decision for the Attorney General, and Senator Krueger looks forward to seeing the ERA on the November ballot. As part of the state budget that was passed in April, new powers were given to the city of New York to shut down illegal pot shops, as the assembly member just mentioned, after an inspection. On Tuesday, the city issued a new set of emergency rules that were in part designed to allow them to take advantage of this new authority. Also part of the state budget was a provision subjecting landlords to a $50,000 fine if they fail to start eviction proceedings after being warned that they are renting to an illegal shop. The State Office of Cannabis Management is now also allowed to padlock illicit shops immediately if they are found to be selling illegal products or selling to minors. Also on Tuesday, the State Senate passed Senator Krueger's Climate Change Superfund Act, S2129B, as part of a suite of Earth Day legislation. This bill creates a 25-year dedicated fund whereby $3 billion will be collected annually from the largest multinational oil and gas companies that have played and continue to play a central role in fueling the climate crisis. This money will then be used to pay for infrastructure improvements related to climate resiliency, such as stormwater drainage systems, seawalls, and air conditioning in public schools. This bill will now head to the Assembly with the bill number A3351B. Senator Krueger hopes to see it passed there and signed into law by the governor, since it will help both the environment and the taxpayers of our state. Thank you again for having me speak this evening, and as always, I can be reached at my Senate email address, which is marinidi@nysenate.gov, or at our office phone number, 212-490-9535. Thank you.
Next up will be Sophia Secker.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Sophie. I am Assemblymember Alex Borza's new district director. So nice to see you all in person. We have a couple quick updates. We finally passed a state budget on April 20th, so we're really happy about that. We are also able to bring $4 million back into organizations in the district, so we're also very excited about that. The Assembly member has 4 bills relating to e-bikes during this session. Session is for another, I believe, 14 days. So we're really trying to push through those bills, which would require limited use motorcycles to be registered at point of sale, would require safety courses for delivery drivers, and amend the vehicle and traffic law to include electric scooters and bicycles as a reporting option. Right now, when you're in an accident, there's actually no option on the DMV form to say it was an e-bike. So we want to make sure that the reporting on that is available and accurate. We were also happy to meet with the committee, the BEC committee, about 2 weeks ago now on our Access for All bill, which would lift the requirement for in-person attendance at community board meetings. And I believe you guys are voting on that today. So we really appreciate the support. We think it's a great bill, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I know that there is a little bit of debate during the committee, and if you have any questions regarding funding with that, always here to help push along. Other than that, we have we will also be at that shred event that the Assembly member is talking about. So we'll see you all there if you have any paper to shred. And yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
Next up will be Ben Lowenstein.
Hello, everyone. Ben Lowenstein, Community Liaison for Assembly Member Tony Simone's office here. Welcome to all the new members. So the Assembly member recently finished passing the state budget, and here's some highlights. On housing, I encourage you all to read this full statement on our website, as the deal that was reached with the governor is wide-ranging. To be brief, this deal, while by no means perfect, lays the groundwork to begin addressing the housing emergency. We must increase supply, and this deal will do that through a new Mitchell-Lama program, incentives for affordable housing development and office conversions, and a significant investment in transforming currently vacant state-owned sites into housing. This deal takes some important steps that we are proud to support. Unfortunately, the version of good cause in this legislation is not good enough, but we're confident the Assembly majority will fight and build on this year's budget and future years until all tenants are safe from unconscionable rent increases and profit-driven harassment. We're especially pleased with the new enforcement powers that have been added to addressing the issue of illicit cannabis stores. I think this was gone through by other people already. But But one thing is that stores will now be able to immediately be padlocked for egregious violations or second violations. So we're very happy about that. We're also pleased to announce that this year's budget will include Sammy's Law, which was signed into law and on the books now today. That will allow New York City to lower the speed limit to 20 miles per hour. This budget also addressed the issue of insulin accessibility. This life-saving medication will no longer be subject to copays or any cost-sharing requirements. The Assembly has passed a number of measures to address public safety concerns around retail theft, including categorizing assault on a retail worker as a Class C felony, creating a new crime of fostering the sale of stolen goods online in order to combat stolen goods crime rings, allowing prosecutors to charge thieves with grand larceny from separate thefts, and creating a tax credit for small businesses to cover retail theft expenses and security. Also, that shredding event, we will be there as well. That is May 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the southwest corner of 17th and Union Square East. Thank you.
Are there any other representatives of electeds in the room? Seeing none, we'll go to people online. Catherine from Senator Gonzalez's office.
Hi. So I think most of the representatives or most of the electeds and representatives have covered the housing wins. I will say that very important steps were made here, but there's so much more to be done for tenants. And the center is committed to fighting for better in Albany. Also around the district a couple weeks ago, opened a media lab at Strauss Houses. And in terms of what we're doing post budget in the legislature, a big focus on legislative oversight of AI, on helicopters and seaplanes, so reducing noise pollution from helicopters and seaplanes, and on protecting the state from cybersecurity attacks. I think maybe you might have heard that there was one that delayed the budget process. And so we have a bill that has already passed the Senate that we're hoping to push through that will increase the safety of New Yorkers' data and help protect our state from future cyber attacks like this one. In addition, we are also wanted to speak to the CEC 2 resolution, which the senator does condemn. I don't want to overstep my time, but thank you all for having me.
Next up will be Biani Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Biani Rodriguez. I'm from the office of Councilmember Carolina Rivera, and I just wanted to share some May 16th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. HRA is going to be in our district office located at 254 East 4th Street to assist constituents with any questions or concerns that they may have regarding HRA. And on Monday, May 20th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., we will be co-sponsoring a town hall on the City of Yes with the Department of City Planning. So feel free to stop by. I'll put the location in the chat. And as always, we're always here to assist you. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Next up will be Hannah Wienerman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Wienerman, the community liaison at Congressman Nather's office. I'm here just to share a few updates about the House's appropriation process. So last month, Congressman Nather proudly voted in favor of the House's foreign security and humanitarian aid funding package that included crucial assistance for our democratic allies, Israel, Ukraine, South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan, as well as vital humanitarian assistance for Gaza and other vulnerable populations. As part of this package, an additional $400 million was secured for the Nonprofit Security Grant Program to ensure that nonprofits including houses of worship, have the resources necessary to protect themselves from rising threats, including anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. The funding is available for capital and security improvements and trainings. So the deadline to apply is May 21st. I'm happy to put the link to the application in the chat. It's also on the FEMA website. So if you have any questions about it, you can reach out to our office. We'd be happy to direct you. Additionally, as the House is in the middle of its appropriations process for FY25, Congressman Nadler led letters to the appropriations subcommittees requesting increased funding for various government programs, including HOPWA, Section 8 housing, enforcing EEOC rules, and addressing helicopter noise and safety concerns in the New York metro area. And lastly, I just want to flag that as summer is coming and it's a very busy travel season, the Biden-Harris administration's Department of Transportation announced 2 rules that will benefit airline passengers. The first protects people from surprise junk fees when purchasing a ticket, and the other is that airlines are now required to give passengers automatic cash refunds when owed. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. It's a pleasure to be with you. Take care.
Thank you. Next up will be Franklin Richards.
Hey everyone, I will be very quick. First, I would like to say thank you for all the folks that attended our event on Tuesday night for Local Law 97. That was a very successful event. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to our office either via email or at 212-818-0580. And the city council started a hearing on the executive budget for fiscal year 25. In the coming weeks, mostly through May, there will be executive budget hearings for each council committee where they will be hear the city agencies on their fiscal needs. Members of the public are able to testify on any particular hearings if they would like to. That's usually at the end. If you want a calendar for that, please feel free to reach out to our office. And that is all for me tonight, and have a great day.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up is Robin Forst.
Hi, how's everybody tonight? Well, it's been an interesting meeting, and welcome to the new members. I just have a couple of quick updates. I know you have a long agenda following this portion of the meeting. I don't know if people heard, but the mayor has rolled out a brand new composting program in all New York City public schools. It's wonderful opportunity for young people to learn early about the importance of composting and being environmentally aware. So that has been launched. I'm not sure if people are familiar with this, but there's a participatory budgeting process for the city that will determine how $3.5 million of city funds is allocated in communities. If people would like to participate, it's much like participatory budgeting that a number of council members hold. But if you're interested, I'll say the link is participate.nyc.gov. It's organized by borough, and each borough has, in this case, Manhattan has about 8 possible projects that have been proposed, and the top 4 vote getters will be the projects that are sponsored as part of this program. And finally, there was mention made of it before, but the City of Yes for housing process was launched at the beginning of last week. It's a very important opportunity to try to work in support of more housing. Everybody who lives in New York knows there's a scarcity. I believe that you'll be discussing this at your May Land Use Committee, and we hope to have your support. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up will be Eric Straza.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, thanks so much. Hope everyone's having a good evening. Just wanted to pass on a few updates from our office. I'll make them quick. We recently announced the expanding of our services for witnesses and victims related to crimes and cases in our office. It'll help us better help survivors across all areas of the office and expand the offerings and capacity significantly. We're converting what was our Witness Aid Services Unit to what is now called our Survivor Services Bureau, and it'll ensure that crime survivors, witnesses, and their families will get the services they need and the help navigating New York's often complex court system. The services include things like safety assessments, counseling, and relocation assistance, among many other things. Moving on, we were also very happy that during the recent state budget passage, there was a version of the Hate Crimes Modernization Act that we worked on with a few other elected officials as well. It basically expands and updates the hate crimes legislation to include 23 additional offenses that prosecutors across the state can consider potentially hate-based, and really brings it into 2024, able to address the range of hate crimes that we're seeing now. There's a full list of those offenses on our website. Some of them include gang assault, sexual abuse, and falsely reporting an incident. We also recently announced a funding opportunity for the summer for youth gun violence prevention. We'll be funding for the third consecutive summer up to $20,000 to community-based organizations to pay young New Yorkers stipends to participate in meaningful programming and enhance and beautify public spaces that are known areas for gun violence. I also wanted to call the board and the public's attention to some case updates that we've recently put out on our website. We recently released that we indicted a group for possessing more than $1 million in stolen goods as part of a retail theft fencing operation. It's a huge step in the right direction to address the issue of shoplifting. I know it's a big issue in this area, and it was done after a long-term investigation with cooperation from retailers like Macy's, CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid. There are other crimes and cases on our website that
Please
we
wrap
put
up your
out
remarks.
updates on. I encourage people to check them out. That's all I have. Thanks so much.
Are there any other representatives of elected officials who would like to speak? This will be your last chance to raise your hand. All right, seeing none, we will move on to the next section of our meeting. We will now enter into the business session of the board where, as I mentioned previously, only board members are allowed to speak. Board members, please remember to have your videos on during the meeting. So we are now entering the business session, starting with a roll call vote for the acceptance of the March and April minutes. May I have a motion? Sure, yes. The minutes should have been emailed out with the rest of the board packet. Was that not the case? Okay. Well, since the minutes were not distributed with the rest of the board packet, we will not be able to approve the minutes. We will bring those back at the next meeting. I'm sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. No, thank you for bringing that up. Sorry, I'm just checking my own email just to make sure. It's not there? All right. Well, if more than one person has said it, then I'm sure it's true. Okay, so we will do that we will approve those March and April minutes at the along with the May minutes at the June meeting. I apologize for that. So instead, we will enter the business session with a roll call vote for the acceptance of the agenda. May I have a motion? And a second? All right, let's take it to a roll call vote. Catherine? 1 second.
So I'm new at this. You all have to speak up and we're gonna find some rhythm here. If you're present, say something. 80s? Balukadar?
Yes.
One moment. Just because I'm not sure if the mic can pick people up, I'm going to ask the secretary to repeat their vote if they are in person, just so it's on the record. Thank you.
80s present, Balukador present, Borden?
Yes. Present.
One moment, everyone. Already having. And Seth is virgin. Thank you. Okay. Chu? Dalal, Chu present, Dalal. Dalal present, Ellington present. Fisher,
Yes.
Fisher present. Ford,
Present.
Ford present. Frizz, Frizz present. Garcia, Gartland,
Present.
Gartland present.
Yes. So I'm just gonna repeat it. So, yeah, sorry. Yes, so Joseph Mafia was bringing up a point that there's an item missing on the agenda to talk about the formation of a new committee that will be undertaking some resolutions. I have that outlined in my chair's report that I will make, if that's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Gashow, Greeley, Greeley present. Haas, Haas present. Hader, Harris, Harris present. Hirschberg, Hirschberg present. Hutton, Hutton present. Hayback, Hayback here and present. Isaacs, Penicilla, Penicilla present. Kirwin, Lager, Kirwin present. Lager, Lavengia, Lavengia present. Levy, Levy present. Mafia, Mafia present. Marks, Marks present. McCall, Miller, Miller present. Nazaro, Nazaro present. Noti Victor, Noti Victor present. Nye, Nye present. Rebus. Is she online? Roland, Roland present. Shapiro, as in David.
Present. I'm on Zoom.
Shapiro, as in Todd. Shapiro Todd present. Sherburne, Sherburne present. Southward, Southward present. Sigmund. Sung, present. Sung. Takahashi Real, Takahashi Real present. Thondon,
Present.
Thondon present. Bikram, Present. Oh, yeah. Got it. Thank you. And Vikram? Where are you? Okay. Vikram present. Witsky. Witsky present. Vikram present. Zhu. Zhu present. Young. Young present. You. Zaki.
Present.
Zaki present. So Koltzwitz. Zolkowitz. Of course, present, present. Zolkowitz present. Okay.
Right, the agenda is accepted. 34, I guess 40,000. Okay, so next up, we will go into the election of the assistant secretary position. Because we did not have an assistant secretary, because the seat of the assistant secretary was vacant prior to the last meeting, we took nominations from the floor for that seat. There was one nominee at the April meeting for this officer position, Catherine Ellington. We will now take this nomination to a vote. Actually, that's a good point. Is there a motion to take this nomination to a vote? Is there? All right, perfect. We'll take this to a vote.
And
So now you're doing this call.
Like, just for optics, I think someone else should take the vote, like do a roll call.
Okay, would you feel comfortable if I did that? Okay, or Zona could do that because she is helping.
Adis. Adis is a yes. Badlokar.
Yes.
Badlokar is a yes. Borden.
Yes.
Borden is a yes. Chu. Chu is yes. Dalal. Dalal is yes. Ellington.
yes.
Ellington is a yes. Fisher.
Yes.
Fisher is yes. Ford.
Yes.
Ford is yes. Frizz.
Yes.
Frizz is yes. Garcia. Garland. Garland is a yes. Goshow. Greeley.
Yes.
Greeley is a yes. Haas.
Yes.
Haas is yes. Hyder. Harris Jr.
Yeah.
Harris Jr. is yes. Hirschberg.
Yes.
Hirschberg is a yes. Hutton. Hutton is yes. Isaacs. Kabak. Kabak is a yes. Kinsella. Kinsella is yes. Lager. Lager. Ned. Sorry. Lavingia. See that? Stain. Levy. Levy is a yes. Mafia. Mafia is yes. Marks. Marks is yes. McCall. Kerwin. Kerwin is yes. Miller. Miller is yes. Nazaro. Nazaro is yes. Nodi Victor. Nodi Victor is yes. Nye. Nye is yes. Revis. Roland. Roland is yes. David Shapiro.
Yes.
David Shapiro is yes. Todd Shapiro. Todd Shapiro is yes. Brad Sherburne. Yes. Sigmund Sung. Sung is yes. Southworth. Southworth is yes. Takahashi Real. Takahashi Real is yes. Thondon.
I'm a new board member and I don't know if I'm supposed to abstain or vote because I don't know the nominee. What should I do?
All members of the community board are entitled to vote. So if you would like to abstain, you're welcome to do that. If you would like to vote for Catherine, you're welcome to do that.
She's the only nominee, right?
She is the only nominee. That is correct.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yes, that was a yes.
But it's not codified anywhere. It's just been the president for the past 30 years.
And
So-
you vote present. Don't have enough information to cast a vote.
So the question or the point of order made by Joe Mafia was that it's common or precedent for this board to have new members not vote at their first meeting. When I spoke to the Borough President's office, I asked them about this question specifically. And they said, or what they told me was that in accordance with the city charter, all of these members are full members. They count towards quorum. And if we want our votes to pass, they should be voting. And they have to vote because they count in the denominator as full members of the board.
Okay, I vote yes.
Sewell.
Thank you.
On which to base a vote, that makes no sense to me, regardless of who is telling us that. I would suggest they might choose to vote present because they don't have the information to make an intelligent vote.
Sorry, was that a point of order or? All right, we'll keep going then.
Vikram. Vikram's a yes. Witzke. Witzke's a yes. I'm a yes. Yong. Yong's a yes. You. Zaki.
Yes.
Zaki's a yes. Zolkowitz. Is Revis on Zoom? All right. So I think it's 39 yes, 1 abstain.
All right. With that, Catherine Ellington has been elected Assistant Secretary. Next, we'll have a report from the nominating committee and the announcement of the officer candidate slate. After that report is made and the officer candidate slate is announced, I will then open the floor from nominations for for anyone else who would like to nominate themselves for any of the officer positions. Renee?
Yep. Hold on. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So the nominating committee took our responsibility under the bylaws very seriously, and we strive to be objective and fair as we fulfilled our duty of recommending the best candidate for each office. For context and for our new members, in early April, a written request of at least 10 members of our board was filed with our board office prior to the business session of the regularly scheduled April board meeting. As a result, instead of CB5's customary appointment of a nominating committee by the executive committee, a nominating committee of 7 members were instead elected by the full board at its April meeting. The 7 nominees who received the highest number of votes were appointed, and as required by the bylaws, this committee, we were required to report to the board at today's meeting 1 candidate for each of the offices of chair, first vice chair, second vice chair, secretary, assistant secretary, and treasurer. In order to be considered by this nominating committee, all members of the board who desired to be considered were required to contact a member of the nominating committee within 2 weeks of the announcement of the nominating committee. We received 14 nominations for the 2024 slate of officers. In alphabetical order, they are Mary Brosnahan, Angkor Dalal, Catherine Ellington, Aaron Ford, Tristan Hos, Libby Hutton, Samir Lavinia, Joe Mafia, Yoran Noti Victor, Charles Nye, Todd Shapiro, Brad Sherburne, Craig Slutkin, and Michael Southworth. The nominating committee immediately met to discuss and create criteria and guidelines to facilitate the process of electing the best candidate for each position. The nominating committee requested that each candidate complete a questionnaire with exactly the same questions. We also asked that each candidate meet with us individually in an interview, during which they were asked standardized questions to better understand their work on the board and their willingness to serve. The nominating committee also obtained feedback from 2 colleagues of each member in order to confirm their work product and ability to work with others. We assessed information provided by the district manager. After this process, the committee met to assess candidates using the data obtained and compared candidates across a number of criteria, including but not limited to experience and years of service, skill set for their nominated position, participation and general work ethic on the board, and ability to collaborate and communicate with others to effectively work towards bringing our group to consensus. On Thursday, May 2nd, the nominating committee had completed its evaluations and had essentially determined its slate. It scheduled a meeting on Monday, May 6th at 6 p.m. to formally take a vote to ratify our slate. However, less than 2 hours before that scheduled meeting, the nominating committee was informed that one of the candidates on its slate was being removed from the board. This compelled the nominating committee to reconsider the nominees, as we were left in the confounding position of potentially having to recommend the remaining candidate for chair, whom the nominating committee had already vetted and concluded would not be an appropriate choice. Specifically, for the role of chair, our chosen nominee was one with over a decade of experience versus one with only a couple of years, one who had served on multiple committees and had chaired both the committees they served on as well as full board, versus one who's only served on only 2 committees and has chaired only a few meetings with difficulty. One whose colleagues who've described as a person who's not only supportive of others and a team player, but who consistently goes above and beyond and is always there for their colleagues and community when needed, versus one whose efforts were described as adequate and has yet to show a body of work that speaks to a commitment to the full community rather than their own interests. More important, the candidate the nominating committee unanimously decided upon has never expressed doubt about the purpose of a community board and its role in listening to and amplifying the voices of our community. That being said, we reconsidered all the candidates across the candidate pool and determined that Bradley Sherburne would be the next best person to step into the role of chair. Given his leadership experience as vice chair and chair for the Landmarks Committee, his skilled handling of difficult work on the DEX Committee, and positive recommendations from colleagues who noted his collegial demeanor, conciliatory voice, and proven ability to respectfully and effectively work with others across the board. This was most recently evidenced by his willingness to lend his skills to the SLAP Committee's Cannabis Task Force, where he brought a much appreciated data-informed perspective to the discussion. We are unable to recommend Brad formally for the slate because the language of our bylaws do not specifically speak to whether the nominating committee is constrained to considering nominees only for the positions that they were nominated for. So the nominating committee, after extensive discussion, has decided to take a conservative approach and consider candidates only for their nominated positions. Therefore, for chair, we recommend Craig Slutkin. For first vice chair, we recommend Todd Shapiro. Todd has been described as one of the most experienced and proactive members of the board. Despite never having served as a committee chair, his extensive tenure, thorough work product, and willingness to undertake so many efforts important to the board when few would do it, including recently the Open Restaurants Task Force and the Cannabis Task Force, are only some of the reasons why we felt he would make the perfect right-hand man for our chair. For second vice chair, we recommend Tristan Hos. Tristan has served on our board for 6 years across multiple committees. He's competent at what he does and has proven to be a collegial member of the board, bridging those with newer and older experience. For secretary, we recommend Michael Southworth. Michael was a former member of this board who decided to return when he was certain he could undertake and commit fully to the work. Michael's colleagues described him as a dedicated, diligent, and proactive member who participates with a perspective that is thoughtful, holistic, and comprehensive. He goes above and beyond to volunteer to take on assignments that no one else wants, simply to ensure the work gets done, and his efforts to bring the rest of his colleagues to consensus during discussions has been noted and appreciated. For assistant secretary, who else but Catherine Ellington? Catherine received glowing recommendations from colleagues who highlighted her compassionate, inquisitive, and proactive nature. Like Todd, she stepped up when no others would and has been chairing the Cannabis Task Force since its nascency and through the state's complicated rollout of the licensing process. Even here this evening, you can see she has stepped up in a time of need. And finally, for treasurer, Aaron Ford. Aaron serves as our current treasurer and carries with him the institutional knowledge to effectively perform the duties of the role and carry the board through his time of transition. Aaron is also a proactive member of the Executive and Parks Committee, where he offers insightful commentary and always takes on assignments, and also serves as vice chair of the complicated Land Use, Housing, and Zoning Committee, for which he recently stepped up to become chair. This concludes the work of the 2024 nominating committee.
Sure, Ankur.
Nominating committee shall make a report to the board at the regular May meeting and shall with this report suggest one member for each position at such meeting. Craig is no longer a member.
So
let me address this point of order. The point of order is, and I'm repeating it for people who aren't able to hear in case it was not coming through the mic. The bylaws say the nominating committee shall make its report to the board at each regular May meeting and shall report with its report such one member for each person at such meeting. Ankur's point of order is that since Craig is no longer a member, he would not be eligible under these bylaws. I find the point of order well deserved. So you would have to nominate someone else, or someone can appeal my decision. Yes, I think it's Todd. I'm gonna wait for you to get this mic just so I don't have to keep repeating myself. 1 second.
Okay, point of order myself. There's a questionable legal issue of fact as to the interpretation of the decision of the nominating committee. Marilyn and Craig, in this case Craig, their term technically may well be construed to go through the end of May, right? So, technically, by the letter of the law, you're within your rights to nominate him, even though he may not be able to serve. So what I would propose is that the issue be taken under consideration and that it be referred back to the New York Law Department for an opinion, and that we proceed on that basis.
So the chair rules that the point of order is not well taken. I had spoken to the borough president multiple times about this specific issue, and he made it very clear that Mary and Craig are no longer members of this board. We have new members, and the city charter caps the membership at 50. If we are, having all of our new members on board, that brings us to that number. We simply cannot have another 2 members that would bring us above 50 to 52. So they aren't, simply put, they are not members. Your point of order is not well found. Sure, Todd, can you use the mic again?
I would appeal that to the larger board as to their opinion on that. I believe that the borough president is a biased party in that regard.
It's like such a controversial meeting.
I know.
Huh?
I'm surprised he's the wrong person.
He's certainly
Doesn't feel
within his
like it.
right to, he's certainly within his right to appoint whoever he wants, but
It says
according to the
8:24.
Robin, can you please mute yourself, please? Thank you.
he's within his right to appoint new members, but he's not within his right to go against the arguably different terms of the city charter.
Sure. So we have an appeal, so we have to deal with that before we can address anything else. The decision of the chair was appealed. The chair's ruling was that Craig and Mary are no longer members of the board because the city charter caps the number of members we can have at 50, and we already have that number of members due to new members being appointed. So the question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? As the rules permit, the chair will speak first. Again, we have a city charter. It caps the number of people at 50. It simply would not make sense to have it be possible for anyone else outside of the people who are in the room, who are on the board, to be on the board. I will open it up to the floor for discussion. Tristan. Thank you for waiting for the mic.
So I'm gonna say if we, I don't know if we need to spend as much time debating this specific question right now, because once this stage ends, the floor is open for anyone to nominate themselves into the race. So, I mean, I would argue that, you know, we should view them not as members, and so the nominating committee has a blank spot at the top of the ballot or the top of the slate. And I don't think that they could decide right now to do it. And so in which case it's a blank slate, and then we progress to the full board, and then both Samir or Brad or anyone else could nominate themselves for chair, and then we vote on that. Like, that's probably the quickest way to just address this issue. That's my thought. So I would say we vote no. I'm sorry, we vote yes on this, and then we proceed.
Right. So just to reiterate, voting yes would say that the chair's decision stands, that section of the slate would be empty, and then we can move on to take nominations from the floor. Sure, Renee.
Point of order, in our tally sheet, there are only 49 members, not 50.
Sure. So if I remember correctly, the reason that there are 49 members is that half the appointments, and thank you for correcting me on this, half the appointments are made by council members and half are made by the borough president. I was told that Gail Brewer chose to leave one of her seats vacant. Gail Brewer chose to leave one of her seats vacant. Zul.
Thank you, Samir. The question that Anka has raised is a legal one. This is not a courtroom, so this may very well come to a lawsuit. I would propose that we do as Tristan has suggested, and at this point, open for nominations from the floor.
Are there any other comments on this appeal? All right, we will take this appeal to a vote. Again, just so everyone understands, the question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? If you vote yes, then the nominating committee slate will have a blank slot at the top because Craig is not on the board. And then we can move on and go to nominations from the floor. So yes, if you agree with my decision from before, no, if you want to sustain, to go with Todd's appeal. So I'll take that to a vote now. Sorry. Well, we have to take it to, oh, my decision. Okay, so if we vote yes, my decision was that since Craig is not a member of the board, that on the slate, that field for chair would be absent. There would be no one under that name. Yes. So
No, just Craig is not a member, isn't it?
Oh, okay, so it can be, I just be clear.
if you would like to make a point of order after this appeal that you have to pick someone instead of no one, we can go through that. Otherwise, I would propose that we just continue. Yep.
I have a clarification question.
Yes, Mohit.
So is the fact that Craig and Mary are no longer board members, is that clear in the city charter, or is it the opinion of the borough president? Because it will have implications on what the nominating committee is presenting, and whether if we vote yes to this question, we are effectively also saying that Craig and Mary are no longer members of the board, which might be in violation of the city charter and may not be. So is there a clear position on whether this violates the city charter or if it's the opinion of the borough president?
Is there a clear position from who? From like the law department?
As chair of this board, are you saying that Craig and Mary's lack of inclusion as part of this board and of this vote, is that clear in the city charter? Are you saying that as chair, or are you saying as per the opinion of the borough president as told to you that they are no longer members of this board?
I see. Okay. So what the borough president has told to me was that they are no longer members of this board. What my opinion is that because the city charter caps us at 50 members, it would not even be feasible to have them be on the board anymore. But the borough president's office simply told me that they are no longer members of the board. Yes, Sul, can you wait for the mic?
Okay, we've clearly entered into a legal dispute, as Moti has so clearly pointed out. This is not a courtroom. The Manhattan Borough President is not a judge.
Just before I call on Charles, I would really appreciate, just so we can keep moving forward, as Tristan said, people can nominate themselves from the floor after this is resolved. We have a lot of business to discuss, and we are honestly wasting a lot of time on such minutia that if, I will let Charles speak because he rose his hand if he would still like to speak. However, I would very much encourage us to just move forward so we can keep on with the business of the board. Thank you. Charles, you are being given a mic.
Okay, I'll be quick. I'm just really concerned, as we know in many agencies in the city, when someone's told, for example, they're evicted from their apartment or things like that, they get a negative result. They can have a fair hearing. They can appeal decision and get heard. I find it really shocking that we have a system where the borough president can axe someone from the board, give no reason, and there's no due process. There's no way for Craig to say, well, wait a minute, I want to appeal. I'm not happy with this decision. There's no 30-day or 60-day rule to appeal the borough president's decision. I think that's really outrageous, especially since, it's a well-known fact in many examples in the city that people have the right to a fair hearing, have a right to appeal the decision, and also have right to know why a decision has been made. So I don't know why there is all this smoke and mirrors and why this decision is so top secret of why Craig's been removed. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Zool. 1 second. Wait for the mic, please.
I object to what's going on here. We may very well be in violation of the city charter based on your decision, which you have made simply based on what you've been told by an elected official.
You are welcome to vote however you please on the appeal. All right, we will now take this appeal to a vote. Again, yes, I will repeat it right now. The question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? If this, my decision was that since Craig is no longer a member of the board, he cannot hold that position on the nominating slate for chair. So that position would be empty after this vote if you vote yes, and there is a majority of yes votes. If you vote no and there are a majority of no votes, then Craig's name would stay. All right, let's take it to a vote.
80s?
I'm gonna abstain.
80s abstains. Balukadar?
No.
Balukadar, no. Borden?
Yes.
Borden, yes. Chu? Dalal?
Yes.
Dalal, yes. Ellington? Yes, I don't. Fisher?
Come back to yourself.
I can come back to myself. Fisher?
I don't believe I know enough about this situation to vote. So what should I do?
Abstain. Fisher abstain. Ford? Yeah. Frizz?
No.
Frizz, no. Garcia? Gartland?
Yes.
Gartland, yes. Gashao? Greeley?
Yes.
Greeley, yes. Hader? Haas,
Yes.
Haas, yes. Hater. Absent. Hater absent. Harris,
Abstain.
Harris abstain. Hirschberg,
No.
Hirschberg, no. Hutton. Abstain. Hutton abstain. Isaacs, absent. Hayback,
Abstain.
Hayback abstains. Kinsella. No. Kinsella, no. Kerwin,
Abstain.
Kerwin abstain. Lager. Absent. Levy,
No.
Levy, no. Lavingia,
I'll vote again.
Mafia,
No.
Mafia, no. Marks, no. Marks, no. McCall,
Not here.
Miller,
Yes.
Miller, yes. Nazaro,
Yes.
Nazaro, yes. Nodi Victor,
Yes.
Nodi Victor, yes. Nye,
None.
Nye, no. Rivas. Roland. Abstain. Roland abstains. Shapiro David.
Abstain.
Shapiro abstains. Shapiro Todd.
No.
Shapiro Todd, no. Sherburne.
No.
Sherburne, no. Southworth.
No.
Southworth, no. Sigmund, absent. Sung. Yes. Sung, yes. Takahashi Rio.
Yes.
Takahashi Rio, yes. Thondon.
Abstain.
Thondon, abstain. Vikram.
Yes.
Vikram, yes. Witzke. Yes. Witzke, yes. Young. Yes, or sorry, no. Young, no. You come to rally. You.
No.
Zaki.
Abstain.
Zaki abstain. Zukowitz.
No.
Zukowitz, no. Wait a minute. You, Zona. Jew, no. No. Jew, no.
One more. Yeah.
I mean, this one. You is absent, like it, so there's a few people. Two? No. Two, no. It's. This is the one. The left side, this one. Two, no. Ford.
No.
Ford, no. Levengia. Levengia abstains. Yes. So you're not slow.
The appeal succeeds, so the decision of the chair does not stand. 13-16-0-11. So as such, the final slate from the nominating committee is for Craig, or Chair Craig Slutkin, first Vice Chair Todd Shapiro, second Vice Chair Tristan Hos, Secretary Michael Southworth, Assistant Secretary Catherine Ellington, and Treasurer Aaron Ford. So with that, thank you to the nominating committee for all their hard work on this, on making that happen. Personally, I'm proud and honored to be the chair of this hardworking, effective, and impressive board. So with much gratitude and appreciation, I am nominating myself for chair and hope that you will give me the opportunity to continue to serve you and the district. Are there any other nominations from the floor for any of the officer positions on the board? Do you mind just, can you, thanks. I would give it to Michael first because he had his hand up. Okay, I don't know if the mic is working, so I'm just going to repeat it. Michael Southworth nominated Bradley Sherburne for chair. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Yes, Bill Garland.
Anchor Dalal for treasurer.
Sounded like the mic worked that time, so I will not repeat you. All right. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Anchor Dalal.
Libby Hutton for first vice chair.
All right, Libby Hutton was nominated for first vice chair. Are there any other nominations from the floor?
One on Zoom.
Sorry.
Tristan Hos for first vice chair.
I don't think our bylaws say you cannot be considered for multiple positions, so that should be fine. Okay, Tristan was nominated for first vice chair as well. Tiffany?
Yarn Noti Victor for secretary, please.
Yaron was nominated for secretary.
Oh, so there.
Yeah, sorry.
Noti Victor was nominated for.
Noti Victor was nominated for secretary by Tiffany Rivas. Sure. Then she would just be present part. That there's nothing wrong with being present part. She is part of the meeting. Are there any other nominations from the floor for any other of the officer positions on the board? Mark Hirschberg. You do not have to accept the nominations, but before we move on, I will ask if anyone would like to withdraw their names. Are there any other nominations from the floor for any of the positions, officer positions on the board? Great. Are there any people who are nominated for any positions that they would like to withdraw from? Tristan Hos. From first vice chair. Okay, Tristan Hos is withdrawing from first vice chair. Are there any other positions where or nominations where people would like to withdraw their name? Okay, so as it stands for chair, there are there are three names. There's Craig Slutkin, Samir Levingia, Bradley Sherburne. For first vice chair, there are two names, Todd Shapiro and Libby Hutton. For second vice chair, there is one name, Tristan Hos. For secretary, there are two names, Michael Southworth and Yaron Noti Victor. For assistant secretary, there is one name, Catherine Ellington. And for treasurer, there are two names, Aaron Ford and Ankur Dalal. Great. So since this election is a little bit more contested than other ones, I want to make sure that members have time to consider if they would like to nominate themselves or anyone else. So I will not be closing nominations until the end of the committee reports. So with that, we will go into the committee reports. We have a lot to cover, or sorry, we will go into the chair's report. We haven't even done that yet. So I will try to keep it brief. So this month, we launched a new website at cb5.org. This has been years in the making, and I'm glad that it has been launched. We did a soft launch a few weeks ago to tweak and fix any issues. So if you see any problems or missing information, please let the board office know immediately. I wanted to remind members as well that all of our emails are public record and that we should be keeping our board business. Yes. Nominations do not need to be seconded. Let me go back to the chair's report. I wanted to remind members that all of our emails are public record and that we should be keeping our board business in the public eye at our committee and full board meetings in accordance with the open meetings law. At the executive committee meeting on May 7th, we additionally decided to start a new task force called the Emergency Meeting Resolutions Task Force that is being chaired by Joe Mafia, as he mentioned earlier. There were a few resolutions that sought to create new internal rules that came up at the emergency meeting in April. We'll be tackling 2 of them this evening, and the other 2 will be referred to this task force. This task force is fully open to any board member who would like to join. If you would like to join this task force, please let me know within the next week and I will assign you to it. The process is that the task force will look at and craft the language of those 2 remaining resolutions. And if the membership of the task force votes to, it will then go to the executive committee in June. Once the executive committee discusses it, it will then come to the full board meeting for a vote at the June full board meeting. Can I just finish the sentence? These resolutions are quite consequential, so I'd encourage anyone with an interest in board governance and communications to take a look and consider joining. Yes, Brad. For the task force meeting, there is currently no date set for the task force meeting. Once we, the task force has been created, once we assign all the members, it'll be up to Joe as chair to figure that out. Yes, Joe.
And I keep the other objective of the committee is to consider the New York City Law Department's, I'm sorry.
The other objective of the committee is to consider the New York City's law department changes, which we're expecting communication by the end of this month.
Yes, thank you for adding that. We are, as Joe mentioned, we are waiting for feedback from the law department on a few of those resolutions, and the committee will also be incorporating that feedback. Thank you.
And we did talk about it in an executive committee that there was a goal date pass in June.
Yes. So as I said, the process is that the task force will look at and craft the language of those resolutions with the feedback from the law department. And if the membership of the task force votes to, it will then go to the executive committee in June. Once the executive committee discusses it, it will then come to the full board for a vote at the June meeting. I also wanted to give an update on the team building event task force. Yaron has been chairing that group, and we are planning to have a team building event in June where we can all work together to keep pushing our critical work forward. As a reminder and new information for new members, we strive to have the majority of our conversations and work done at the committee level. So when there is a topic you are specifically interested in, I would encourage you to either go in person or over Zoom to participate fully in that discussion. I wanted to highlight our upcoming land use meeting on May 22nd, as some of the other speakers had done in the public hearing, as that issue has more discussion than others typically at our full board meeting. The Department of City Planning will be presenting the citywide zoning text amendment called the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, and it is important to focus these conversations at the committee meetings as much as possible, where members can have the most impact instead of bringing everything up at the full board meeting. If you are not able to attend, please send your feedback to the chair of that committee, Aaron Ford, and they will also be live streamed so you can watch them and you will have heard, all the information you need before voting at the full board meeting. Next, I'll be listing the committees and their chairs and vice chairs so new members can know who to talk to if there's specific items they're interested in. For transportation and environment, there's Tristan Hos and Sam Levy. Budget, education, and city services, it's Renee Kinsella and Julie Chu. For state license and permits, it's David Sigmund and Janice Young. For land use, housing, and zoning, there's Aaron Ford and Nancy Goshow. For landmarks, there's Bradley Sherburne and Mark Hirschberg. And for parks and public spaces, the chair is Kimberly McCall. These are also all on our website, and I would encourage you to check it out there. As a reminder for existing members and a primer for new members, when voting, remember that in accordance with the New York City Charter, we need a majority of the votes in affirmative for an action to pass. This means that abstentions are practically a no. This is not to say you cannot abstain, but know that when you are voting on an action, it will have the same effect. Lastly, I'd like to express my gratitude to Craig and Mary, who both tirelessly served on Community Board 5 for many years, and I wish them the best. We also did not have the chance to say thank you to Sarah Dosen, but she has also left the board, and we appreciate her service as well. With that, I would like to welcome our 12 new members, and I would like to give them each a chance to introduce themselves, their name, affiliation with the neighborhood, and why they joined. To all existing members, let's make sure that they are well supported and express our excitement that they are here with us. We should all strive to make sure that our members are supported, welcomed, and feel comfortable here, so they are most comfortable making their voices heard and the voices and opinions heard. So, yeah, you can clap if you want. All right. So with that, we are going to start with Morris. Let's keep it brief because we are running out of time. Name, affiliation, and
be honest, I don't know. No, my name is Morris Adis. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and get to meet everybody here. It seems like there's a lot of work for all of us to do. There's a lot of things that we can tackle together, and I'm very excited to working with everybody here individually and together. So,
all right. Next is Malik Fisher, if you are still with us.
Hi, yes. My name is Malik Fisher. I am a graduate of Xavier High School, and I've coached basketball, football there, and graduate of Villanova University. And I'm just glad and happy to be accepted into the community, and I'm looking forward to making an impact. And I thank Renee Kinsella for being someone who was really instrumental in getting me to apply and be a part of this community board.
Mike Greeley. Do you mind passing him?
I'm Michael Greeley. I've been on community board before as a full board member for 8 years, and I've been on the past 4 years as a public member on the land use committee. And I just want to try to help the board as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Miles Kerwin.
Hey everyone, I'm Miles Kerwin. I've been a public member on SLAP for technically since 2021, but really since 2023. I actually went on military leave for about a year. I served in the National Guard in the Armory on 25th and Lexington. And then I also work for a health tech company on 28th and 3rd. And I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Next will be Neil Miller. Neil.
Thanks for, it's nice to meet everyone. Hope this is on. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Neil. I live at 26th and 6th with my wife, and I really honored by the chance to participate with all of you, and looking forward to, I'm sure we have lots of meetings to get to know each other. So looking forward to getting to know you. Always feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Next up will be Annie Rowland.
It's a pleasure to meet all of you tonight. I am here as a resident of the district and eager to give to public service. So thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
David Shapiro.
Hi, I'm David Shapiro. I've been a 20+ year resident of New York City. I'm excited to it's my first public service opportunity to work with the team here. Looking forward to working with everybody to help New York City flourish.
Thank you. Yoden.
Hi, I'm Yoden Thondon, and I'm happy to be here. This was a very confusing night to me. Introduction to CB5. I'm a mother of 3 children. I was born and raised in my neighborhood, and I look forward to contributing and yeah, helping our community thrive. Thank you for the opportunity.
Next, we'll go to Justine.
Hi, everybody. I'm Justine Witzke. I am here as a business owner in the district. I actually launched a fertility center, a sperm bank, and fertility consultancy on 49th and Madison last year. But I've lived in New York City almost 20 years and have a couple of small nonprofits. So I'm looking forward to getting involved.
Next, we'll go to Mirazaki. Josh, do you mind just bringing the mic around to Ronaldo?
Hi, I'm a 17-year resident and also a small local business owner, photographer and videographer. I think that change happens at the community level, so I'm really interested in learning more and seeing what we can do together.
Mrinal.
I am Mrinal Vikram. I live and work in the district. I live on 16th and 5th, so just half a block away. And I work by Grand Central 46th and Park. Prior to this, I was on Community Board 4. And just, I mean, it seems like a little bit of a chaotic meeting, not something I'm used to, but I'm sure we'll get out of this whole situation stronger than we started.
All right, thank you. Once again, let's give another welcome round of applause to all of our new members. All right, next we will go to committee reports and resolutions, starting with transportation and environment. Tristan.
Hi, everyone. So we have 2 resolutions this month. Can I have them deemed read?
Deemed read.
And bundled, please.
Yep.
Okay, so the first resolution pertains to a request for a modification of revocable consent from the DOT associated with a MTA request to install additional security bollards at Plaza 33, basically just to protect the new east side access gateway and MTA and LIRR entrances, as well as the public pedestrian plaza area. This is being installed here at the recommendation of NYPD, Counterterrorism, Metro Transit Police, and FDNY. And so they were requested to proceed with this application, seeking either approval or non-opposition. The committee consensus at the meeting, for which we lacked an in-person quorum, was that we should proceed with a non-opposition, given some concerns about how certain areas of the bollards intersect the sidewalks. So we proceed in that manner, and then the exec committee voted in support of this unanimously. Oh, sorry, one abstention, but everyone else voted for this. Any questions? Oh.
Questions? Comments? Great. Next resolution.
Okay, the second application pertains to a request for no standing any time zone between Park and Lexington Avenue along East 52nd Street and 53rd Street. The applicant was seeking 90 feet of a no standing any time zone on both streets, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This would accommodate certain commercial travel and access to the buildings to access the restaurants and other commercial operations there. The committee was not in support of the application as written, but we were comfortable supporting a more limited no standing zone of around 30 feet for specific hours of the day, like so in the morning and later in the afternoon, during the week only. And so we discussed this at the committee. The applicant was there, and while obviously they would prefer 24 hours a week and the larger distance, they were comfortable proceeding. And so we recommended, per usual process, denial unless the applicant or the approval was associated with that more limited zone and hours of operation. We also did emphasize that this no standing zone would not be for the exclusive use of the building, so that we didn't want them to put out cones preventing anyone from accessing it. So that's also part of the resolution as well.
Great. Any questions? Yes, Charles Nye, 1 second. Let's get you a mic. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
I didn't receive the any more information, I'm afraid, committee chair, about the feasibility study done by the DOT. I was wondering if you were able to get the findings of the DOT to the feasibility study, whether the DOT does think a no standing zone is appropriate, especially since there is a no standing zone, I believe on a different side of the block. And also, excuse me. Also, I was wondering, how do you guarantee? How does you and the committee guarantee that that the applicant is not going to use the no standing zone exclusively for their employees? I think that'd be pretty hard to guarantee. And also, one last question is, I thought no standing zones were no standing all the time. I don't believe they are no standing 1 minute and then no standing the other minute. I believe that's to do with no parking, but I could be wrong. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. So there is a limited no standing zone in effect as of today. So the application would seek to expand the current limited no standing zone, which is for specific times of the day. So it does enable that functionality. With regards to the first part, to the environmental study or the study by the DOT, so we do have confirmation, written confirmation from the Manhattan Borough Engineering Office of the DOT that they completed their field investigation involving land use and traffic locations, traffic conditions at the location, and did not foresee any issue with fulfilling the request. The reason why it's coming to the community board is because they deemed that because this does qualify as a quality of life issue, it's required to go to the community board. And so I don't have the actual results of the investigation itself, but we can reach out to DOT and see what additional documentation we can source beyond like the email from them or the written letter from them.
Great. Todd, you have your hand raised. Would you like to add anything? All right. We will keep going. Okay, so those are the two resolutions. Any other comments or questions to that resolution? All right, seeing none, we will take this. Sorry. Yep, Neil. The question from Neil was who makes the final decision if we after this?
Yeah, so it's DOT. So with a lot of the applications here, the applicants are submitting applications to the city agencies, and then certain items require socialization and vetting with the community boards. And then we offer a recommendation based on the content of the application and the engagement. And then our recommendation goes to the city agencies as they finalize and as they make their final determination. So you'll see that with like a lot of the applications that you'll hear tonight.
Great. Todd, you still have your hand raised?
Yeah, just promote me so I can record my vote when the time comes.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll take it to a vote. Yes, Catherine.
So since there are new members here and we are taking a bundle to a vote,
How's it
can you
going?
explain? It would help to clarify how a bundle works. So, yep.
Yep. So for new members, we are allowed to bundle our resolutions or bundle our votes. Basically, that means you can just say yes if you would like to vote yes on both resolutions. If you would like to vote yes only on one, you can say I vote yes on the first and no on the second, or no on for the first and yes on the second, or you can just say no to vote no on both. It's meant to speed up the process a little bit, so we don't have to go through two roll call votes and it can just go through one. Thank you.
And I'll just note for the record, so Zool just flagged that the vote lacks his vote in favor. So we'll just update the materials to reflect his vote. Zool Zolkowski. For both of the resolutions. Yeah. He's just not left there.
Oh,
Yep.
in the minutes.
Yeah. Not the minutes, in the package.
I thought exec voted on these.
Oh, wait, sorry. Yes, sorry, Zool, there was no vote. This is just exec.
Just to explain.
Because we lacked an in-person quorum, and so we came to a consensus at the committee, but because we didn't have enough people in the room to vote, We voted.
And it's not represented in the rest.
So you'll see that the individuals cited in the resolution are just the members of the executive committee, not the T&E committee.
Addis? Addis, yes.
They are bundles, so you're voting on both of them. If you'd like to vote yes on one and no on the other, just make it known.
Baluchador,
Yes.
Baluchador, yes. Addis, yes. Okay. Thank you. Borden. He's online. Okay. Chu. Yes. Dalal.
Yes.
Ellington, yes. Fisher.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Briz.
Yes.
Garcia. Gartland.
Yes.
Gushow. Freely.
Yeah.
Haas.
Yes.
Hader. Harris. Hirschberg. Hutton. Isaacs. He's not. Kback.
Yes.
Kinsella. Kerwin.
Yes.
Oh, I'm supposed to say, if, so, can I say, yeah, so what I'm gonna say is if somebody unbundles, I will say, otherwise, we're gonna keep moving. Lavengia.
Abstain.
Lavengia abstain. Levy.
Yes.
Mafia.
Yes.
Marks. Yes. McCall. Miller.
Yes.
Nazaro.
Yes.
Jody Victor.
Yes.
Nye. Yes. Rivas.
Yes.
Obviously.
Roland. Yes. Shapiro David.
Abstain.
Shapiro David abstain. Shapiro Todd.
Yes.
Sherburne.
Yes.
Sigmund. Southward.
Yes.
Sung. Takahashi Rio.
Yes.
Dandin.
Yes.
Vikram.
Yes.
Witzke. Yes. Ju. Yes. Young. Yes. You. Absent. Zaki. No, abstain.
She's online still. Like, she's not saying.
Zaki.
Sorry, abstain.
Zaki abstain. Zukowitz.
Yes.
The bundle passes 36,003. Thank you. The next, sorry, losing my notes. The next committee report is coming from the Landmarks Committee.
Hello, and welcome to all our new members. Everyone has said it, but I want to say it myself. So this month was a bit of a strange month at Landmarks for two reasons. The first is typically Landmarks, we get applications for projects or construction that's happening in the district. We did not have any of those this month. So what you see in front of you tonight is a letter that is a reaction to a rule change proposed by the LPC. And then the second thing that is a little odd is that like transportation, like T&E, we also did not have a quorum. So what you're seeing here was discussed at the committee, the Landmarks Committee, and then referred to the Executive Committee, which then took the final vote. So a little bit of background. So the LPC has proposed a change to their rules. Currently, the way it works is that when bus shelters are being installed, bus shelters are those kind of like stainless steel and glass fixtures you see. They're like the newsstands. It's all part of kind of a package deal that's put together by a contractor. When those are placed, the LPC typically weighs in on those. And in almost all cases, they always say yes, but it always does come before LPC. They are proposing to change their rules to no longer require that to come before the commission, but only to have to be reviewed at the staff level. So the committee discussed that, and what you see in front of you is a letter basically reacting to our opinions and thoughts on that. In general, the committee and then ultimately the executive committee that voted had a few concerns that you see outlined in the letter. So the first one is that by removing the bus shelters from review at the LPC, that removes the public's ability to comment on these things, because all of that is publicly noticed. All of these receive public comment, which is what this letter actually is on a different item. And so that sort of limits transparency on this item. The second was that this is something that we see as kind of a worrying trend. You can see on lines 168 to 170, all of the various items that in the past year, the LPC has decided is no longer required to be reviewed at the commission level, and instead is only reviewed at the staff level. When items are reviewed at the staff level, they will inevitably pass. The staff has no discretion to deny items. So anything that is in those categories, should it follow sort of the letter of the law, passes regardless. The second is that by removing the LPC Commission's review of these, it also reviews sort of that historic appropriateness and that preservation perspective, because then it would not be reviewed by them, it's only reviewed at the staff level. And so it removes the LPC's ability to comment and make minor modifications. Like I said, they're basically always passed, but if it says we should move it maybe 3 feet to the right so it's not directly in front of the entrance to the Flatiron or something like that, that would no longer be allowed to happen under this rule change. And then finally, and this was something that was sort of a conversation because originally the Landmarks Committee was a little bit split or a little bit unsure of this, because we are in favor, as you see in the letter, to improvements to our public transportation system. We think there are benefits in terms of equity, efficiency, and sustainability. However, it is difficult for the committee to evaluate that based on the rule change introduced. So we are requesting that should further rule changes be made, information regarding schedule, pricing, anything like that be made so that we can better understand sort of what we are gaining by losing this review from LPC. And then finally, the committee thought that should this remain under the jurisdiction of the LPC, that the current one-size-fits-all approach doesn't necessarily work in some of our historic districts. So just for context, like you see, those bus shelters look the same in Queens, Uptown, Downtown, Brooklyn, wherever. They're the same throughout the entire city. And so the committee thought that it should be reconsidered, which was actually sort of the initial consideration for these bus shelters, that they be a little bit more site-specific so that something in a historic district doesn't look exactly like the same as something in Times Square. So that was voted at the executive committee, and the vote was 7-0-1-0.
Great, thank you. Yeah, are there any questions to the resolution? I'll start with Catherine Ellington.
So I remember when these shelters started, and what I remember is I was in a community group meeting one night and they told folks, we don't want this because it's going to draw homelessness, that people use the shelters for homelessness. It gave them a voice. So my question with all this is, so if this is going away, what is the process? Because I think it is important to be able to speak and to say that it might lead to some other resolve. In that particular case, you're going to need a bus shelter, and it's a separate issue. But my question is, if this is going away, what is the process for public comment?
So there would be, and as part of the LPC's process, there would be no ability for public comment because it's going directly to the staff level. Just as sort of a clarification, I think, or maybe to a better explanation for others. The LPC does not weigh in on the actual, in their sort of individual reviews. They do not weigh in on the design. The design is governed by the Public Design Commission, if I'm getting the acronym correct, which includes, you know, the signage, lighting, et cetera. So
for example, the example is to create bus shelters that prohibit or avoid loitering. So you'll see, like, sometimes you'll see it'll just be a bar. So you could sit on it, but you can't sleep on it. That kind of sensitivity is what public voice brings to large scale public projects. This is large, like, this is large scale. Like, people ask about decision-making processes. This is large scale. And you're right. Each neighborhood could have its own distinctive character. So where is that? And maybe that's more on the public planning side?
So two points to that. The first is, you're right, it does, because it is no longer being reviewed by the commission, it is no longer publicly noticed. You cannot give there's no opportunity for someone as part of the LPC's process to make points just like that. And then the second thing is that the LPC does not, like I said, does not review the individual design of the item itself. So that's not sort of, that's a little bit of a separate thing and more covered by the Public Design Commission.
It's not tied to budget. Like, if I'm making a $5 million decision, shouldn't it go through a bigger, more of a process? That I'm just worried the scale here is a concern. But there's a lot of historical districts.
DOT is going to do, thank you. DOT will still do all of the other checks. This is just about design for bus shelters in historic districts. So mostly about, does it fit in with the historic fabric? Less, are there other concerns about the bus shelter that would be unique to the community? Because that would be more DOT as opposed to.
And just a clarification, it's actually more for the placement of the bus shelter rather than the actual design. It's more about, does it go on this corner or that corner, or does it go, you know, 3 feet this way versus that way? But otherwise, yes, exactly what Sachi said.
Great. Before I ask for other comments, I do want to remind people that we have a hard out at 9:45. So please keep that in mind before making your comments. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, Zona.
Thanks, Brad. I just have a question, and I wholeheartedly agree that bus shelters are a really important part of the urban fabric, and we should get to comment on those. As part of this like trend towards lack of public comment, I'm curious if they've cited like budgetary concerns or costing. And as we look at like the city budgeting process, is there anything we can do to like help reverse the trend, I guess?
I mean, so that was actually, I mean, that's very much the third point. We received no information on that of, you know, would this remove 10 days of schedule? We get our bus stops 10 days faster, or it would cost, I don't know, $500,000 less. I'm just making up numbers. So we received no information on that, which was part of the reason why we were unable to approve. Like if we found out maybe some of that information, we might feel differently, or the committee as a whole might feel differently. But because we didn't have that, there was sort of no way to sort of say, what do we get for losing this review?
Great. Charles, 1 second, please wait for the mic.
Thank you. Oh, I have a comment. So I have two New York Times articles here regarding the historical relevance of bus shelters. In 1975, December 6, 1975 was when the first bus shelters came along. And the public were very happy because prior to that, they didn't have any shelter from the rain or anything like that. The bus shelters came with safety glass and lighting. And in fact, it's thanks to a guy called William Boucher, who one day was on 6th Avenue and got wet and said, hey, we need bus shelters in New York City. And that's when he started up the Bus Stop Shelter Corporation. And then I have another article again in my hand here today from 1984, again saying that, you know, referencing the 3-year contract of bus shelters, the first ever bus shelters in the city back in 1975. And the point why I bring this up is, if you're saying that bus shelters need to reflect the historical nature of a neighborhood, if you have a neighborhood that's historically from the 1920s or the 30s or the 40s or the 50s or 60s, well, they didn't have bus shelters. So what are you going to do? Remove the shelters? The bus shelters provide lighting, and safety to people, and they need to be protected, and they really don't need landmarking because they don't have any historical relevance. What they were there for was safety and comfort from the weather and you know, from all the other elements. So I'm voting no on this. It doesn't make sense to me. Bus shelters do not need to be landmarked at all. And if there is a problem with the location of bus shelter, where it goes to the transportation committee. I mean, that's the whole point of why we have a transportation committee. So thank you. And if Chair, if you would, I would love to submit these articles into the record if that's possible. Thanks.
Yes, Brad, feel free to
Yeah.
respond.
So thank you for your points, Charles. I mean, and apologies, I should have gone further. I gave an example of a design that would be more appropriate to a landmark district. But in the letter, we also consider other items such as advertisement. All of these bus shelters have those kind of scrolling LED well, previously scrolling, now LED advertisements. So one of the considerations we said is maybe in the historic districts, they're not as bright, or they don't flip as often, or maybe they're gone entirely. Or items such as the materials, maybe in a historic district, rather than the bright, shiny stainless steel, maybe it's a bronze or something like that. So I don't think that I don't think the text of the letter is saying that they have to be you know, ye old bus stop, but they should reflect maybe a little bit more the districts that they're in. And then in terms of the siting of them, or sort of the placement of them, that the DOT determines, sort of like Sachi brought up, they review all the other items, but the LPC just reviews them for their historical appropriateness. So that is more about placement. Should, like, maybe it doesn't go on the avenue, it doesn't go in front of the primary entrance, it goes in front of the secondary entrance or something like that. So that's the intent behind the letter, not to say that they shouldn't exist at all, or that they should be sort of faux historical, but that they should just be more sensitive to their context.
All right. I really think we need to take this to a vote as soon as possible. We have a few more items and we only have 30 more minutes. Sachi, if you would like to speak, feel free, but I really encourage us to take it to a vote after this.
All right, great. Everyone, my name is Sachi. I'm going to introduce myself because there's lots of new folks here. I'm on the SLAP committee and on the landmarks committee. So if anybody wants to talk about those committees, please do reach out. I'm more than happy to share. I've only been on the board for a year, but
to the resolution.
Great. I plan on voting no on this resolution. I brought up this concern in the landmarks committee and just want to share my thoughts with the board before the vote as well. While the rest of the committee considers this a troubling trend for LPC to streamline some of these rules, I actually consider it a positive trend. I recently read an article about a $1.7 million toilet in San Francisco. I encourage everyone to read this article. It's at the New York Times. And basically it was like, a public toilet doesn't need to cost $1.7 million, but there are so many commissions and so many decisions and so many decisions that a public toilet has to go through in San Francisco that the New York Times was like, oh, this is national news. And every single rule that we make that holds up a project does add time to the project. I think that bus shelters are such a critical part of public infrastructure that we should not hold them up with rules like this. So I will be voting no on this resolution.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? All right, seeing none, we're taking this to a vote.
Thank you. So I can vote. Addis? Yes.
Yes, Joe, 1 second. Just 1 second for the mic. Yes.
I don't recall hearing whether before any votes, whether there's any conflict of interests. Shouldn't we be asking before a vote?
Sure. You know, members are encouraged before they vote to reveal their conflict of interest, but in the future, I will, yeah, that is their responsibility, but in the future, I will remind people that if they have any conflicts to let them be known before the vote. Does anyone have a conflict with this resolution? Seeing none, we'll take this to a vote.
Addis? Yeah. Balakador?
Yes.
Balakador, yes. Borden? Chu? Yes. Dalal?
No.
Dalal, no. Ellington? Yes. Fisher? See online still. Fisher? Okay. Ford?
Yes.
Briz,
Yes.
Garcia, absent. Gartland. Yes. Gartland, yes. Gashao, absent. Greeley.
Yes.
Greeley, yes. Haas.
Yes.
Hader, absent. Harris.
Yes.
Harris, yes. Hirschberg.
Yes.
Hirschberg, yes. Hutton.
Yes.
Hutton, yes. Isaacs, absent. Kavak.
Yes.
Kavak, yes. Kinsella.
Yes.
Kinsella, yes. Lager. Kerwin.
Yes.
Kerwin, yes. Lavingia.
Abstain.
Abstain. Levy. Absent. Yeah, okay. Mafia.
Yes.
Mafia, yes. Marks.
Yes.
Marks, yes. McCall, absent. Miller.
No.
Miller, no. Nazaro.
No.
Nazaro, no. Nodi Victor.
Yes.
Nodi Victor, yes. Nye.
Yes.
Nye, yes. Rebus. Roland.
No.
Roland, no. Shapiro, David.
No.
Shapiro, David, no. Shapiro, Todd.
Yes.
Shapiro, Todd, yes. Sherburne.
Yes.
Sherburne. Sherburne, yes. Sigmund. Southworth.
Yes.
Southworth, yes. Sung. Absent. Takahashi Real.
No.
Takahashi Real, no. Thondon.
Abstain.
Thondon, abstain. Vikram.
Yes.
Vikram, yes. Witzke.
Abstain.
Whiskey, abstain. Two.
Yes.
Two, yes. Young.
Yes.
Young, yes. You, absent. Zaki.
Abstain.
Zaki, abstain. Zukowitz.
Yes.
Zukowitz, yes.
Resolution passes 25-600. Next, we will have the Joint Committee of Land Use, Housing and Zoning and Budget, Education and City Services, presented by Renee.
Hi.
Yes. Right, so, sorry, 25-604. Yep.
Hi, thank you, Samir. Welcome to all the new people who've joined. I'm Renee Kinsella. I'm from the BEX Committee. I'd like to meet you all and look forward to it over the coming weeks. I'm going to be very quick. I have two resolutions. Samir, may I deem them bed and bundle them? Is that okay? Because it's two committees?
We should not bundle across committees, so we should do these separately.
Okay. All right. So this month there was a joint meeting. It was between Land Use, Housing, Zoning and our BEX Committee, which is for the new members, Budget, Education and City Services. It was a bill sponsored by Senator Liz Kruger, Assembly Member Rosenthal, and it's regarding ground leases. The bill would limit the amount of rent increases for residential ground lease, cooperative apartment buildings, and establish certain rights upon the expiration of such leases. So just to give you an overview of what a ground lease is, it's land that is leased to tenants who then have the rights to develop and use the property for the duration of the lease. So if you think about it, think about an apartment building where the co-op owners own the building and their individual co-ops, but not the land on which the building stands. That land is owned by a third-party landlord. And many of these leases have run for 99 years. And so right now, we're starting to see the end of some of these leases. So these residents in the ground lease co-ops, they deal with a bunch of issues that normally people don't deal with. Many of the ground leases don't let the tenants borrow for repairs and maintenance without the landlord's consent. And there's reasons why the landlord doesn't allow it, because there's no incentive for him to do so. Second, when the lease is close to expiration, the co-op owner has no guarantee that the lease will be renewed or whether the renewal terms will be viable. And ground lease landlords are absolutely free to set their own price. And because land lease co-op owners' apartments are tethered to the land, you can't just pick it up and move it. It's difficult for them to negotiate equitably with the landowners. And finally, ground lease tenants do not have a right of first refusal. So if the landlord decides he wants to sell the land to any potential buyer, right now he can. So who are the co-op land lease owners? The majority of them here are middle income or on a fixed income. They're diverse. They don't fit into a single ethnic or cultural profile. And in between New York and Westchester, there's approximately 12,000 ground lease units, and there's 500 ground lease units here in Community Board 5. So what would the legislation do? First, there's going to be no cost to the taxpayer, and it would only be applied to privately owned land leases, not those on federal, city, or state land. It would limit the annual rent increases to no more than greater of 3% or CPI, the Consumer Price Index, in order to stabilize those costs for the residents. Second, it would provide for automatic lease renewals. Third, it would permit ground lease co-op owners to get the loans for repairs and improvements, regardless of the existing lease terms that could prohibit those actions. And then finally, the bill would provide a right of first refusal. So if the landowner wanted to sell the land, the co-op owners get the first right of refusal. And all of these serve to alleviate the fears of displacement and uncertainty the owners of land lease co-ops currently experience, and provide them with some of the protections that other homeowners in New York have. Our committee recognized the importance of reducing the uncertainty of co-op land lease owners and providing affordability and stability in housing policy. We did have concerns, though. Fairness issues and the long-term consequences of interfering with private property contracts and agreements, as well as the impact that this legislation might have on the real estate market, and in particular, whether it could serve to increase rents. So in discussing the issue, we came to a consensus, decided to balance the competing interests of protecting ground lease tenant rights while maintaining a healthy real estate market. We voted unanimously to support the package, but asked that its impact on both residents and the broader real estate market be monitored to assess its impact on residents and the broader real estate market. And we also asked that there be further dialogue and stakeholder engagement to refine and improve the legislative measures. So we had a quorum in both committees, 5 yes on land use, 9 on BECS. There was 1 extension for a conflict of interest.
Does anyone have a conflict with this resolution? Joe? Joe has a conflict. Okay. Great. Are there any questions to this resolution? Seeing none, are there any comments to this resolution? All right, Encore, please wait for the mic. As a reminder, we have a hard out in 20 minutes, so please be brief.
Thank you. While I understand that ground lease co-ops or land lease co-ops face a host of issues, I do not think the state should step in and mandate a cap on rental rate increases. Buyers of land lease co-ops already get significant discounts in purchase price to reflect the fact that their maintenance may increase as rents increase on the underlying land. For example, in our district, Carnegie House, a land lease building, has 3-bedroom apartments for sale for $360,000. The median price in our district for a home is $3.98 million, which also tells you something about the supply of homes in our neighborhood. I think this bill will provide a huge windfall for co-op shareholders at the expense of the landowners, and there's no need for our community board to pick a side in this fight. I also note that the proposed rent in caps in this bill are far lower than offered to tenants recently in the good cause eviction bill, which was 10% or CPI plus 5%. I don't know why we'd support measures that treat owners better than renters.
Are there any other comments? Zona?
I was part of the BECS committee, and in the committee too, I personally am very concerned about the strange impacts this has just from an asset pricing perspective and potential implications for renters if landlords are now unable to get the same returns from these properties. That said, I personally gain comfort with language in the resolution that just calls out these concerns explicitly and asks to monitor. While I don't know what the best measure is in terms of hard percentage, like the language in the resolution, I personally got comfort from that.
Yes, Bill.
Yes, I'm going to vote no on this as well. It just feels like an illegal private property taking to me.
Are there any other comments?
May I just respond to that?
Sure,
I
yes.
just would like to remind everybody, one of the primary concerns of this district is affordable housing, the stability of the people who live in this district, and ensuring that they have the comfort of knowing that they can afford the apartments that they live in. And without this legislation, people are likely to be displaced. That's the reality. And so part of this, to Zona's point, was we wanted to balance both the fear that this would disrupt the private interests of the landlords, but also look to the affordability and keeping people in place in their homes.
Great. Are there any other comments? Seeing none? None? All right, seeing none, we will take this to a vote.
No. All right. Absent. Yeah. Baluka.
Yes.
Yes. Baluka Card, yes. Borden. Can I just call those over here or just okay. Chu, yes. Chu, yes. Dalal.
No.
Dalal, no. Ellington. Yes. Ellington, yes. Fisher. Ford.
Yes.
Ford, yes. Frizz.
Yes.
Frizz, yes. Gartland.
No.
Gartland, no. Greeley.
Yes.
Greeley, no.
Yes.
Oh.
No.
Greeley, yes. Haas.
Yes.
Haas, yes. Harris.
Yes.
Harris, yes. Hirschberg.
Yes.
Hirschberg, yes. You all better speak up. Hutton.
Yes.
Hutton, yes. Kayback.
Yes.
Kayback, yes. Kinsella.
Yes.
Kinsella, yes. Kerwin.
Abstain.
Kerwin, abstain. Lager, absent. Lavingia, abstain. Levy. Okay, Mafia, present, not entitled. Marks.
Yes.
Marks, yes. McCall, absent. Miller.
Yeah.
Miller, yes. Nazaro.
No.
Nazaro, no. Noti Victor.
Yes.
Noti Victor, yes. Nye.
Yes.
Nye, yes. Revis. Roland.
No.
Roland, no. Shapiro, David.
No.
Shapiro, David, no. Shapiro, Todd.
Yes.
Shapiro, Todd, yes. Sherburne.
Yes.
Sherburne, yes. Southworth.
Yes.
Southworth, yes. Takahashi Real.
Yes.
Takahashi Real, yes. Thondon.
No.
Thondon, no. Vikram.
Same.
Vikram, abstain. Witzke.
Yes.
Witzke, yes. Chu. Chu, yes. Young. Young, yes. Zaki.
Yes.
Zaki, yes. Zulkowitz. Zulkowitz, yes.
The vote passes 25-6-1-3. Thank you. Next, we'll go to the next Bex resolution. As a reminder, we have 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to talk really quickly. In the actual resolution you have in front of you, I'm going to deem it read. And
Deem
I'm
it.
just going to tell you what the legislation is because I think you are all waiting for this. I'm going to talk really fast. It's the Access for All Act. And what it does is remove the requirement for in-person attendance at public meetings by community boards for us. This is what we were talking about before. You guys look at the history. I'm not going to go through it. This does not change our ability to make our own rules about hybrid. It just expands what we can do. There's a whole bunch of reasons. There wasn't an appropriation in the bill. We were concerned about not having the money, so we did add that request that the legislature have some appropriations. And I'm going to stop there unless you have questions.
Are there any questions? No. Any comments? No, take it to a vote.
Last one. Belukador,
Yes.
Belukador, yes. Chu. Chu, yes. Dalal. 1 second. Dalal?
Yes.
Yes. Ellington, yes. Ford,
Yes.
Ford, yes. Frizz,
Yes.
Frizz, yes. Garland,
Yes.
Garland, yes.
I don't recall, what the question was, there was a conflict on this resolution.
Sorry, does anyone have a conflict on this resolution before we vote? If you do, please make sure you vote present on entitled. All right, let's keep going.
Garland,
Yes, again.
yes. Garland.
Is that 2 votes are gone?
Greeley,
Yes.
Greeley, yes. Haas,
Yes.
Haas, yes. Harris,
Yes.
Harris, yes. Hirschberg,
Yes.
Hirschberg, yes. Hutton,
Yes.
Hutton, yes. Kavak,
Yes.
Kavak, yes. Kinsella,
Yes.
Kinsella, yes. Kerwin,
Yes.
Kerwin, yes. Lavingia, abstain. Levy,
Gone.
Mafia,
Yes.
Mafia, yes. Marks,
Yes.
Marks, yes. Miller,
Yeah.
Miller, yes. Nazaro,
Yes.
Nazaro, yes. Noti Victor,
Yes.
Noti Victor, yes. Nye,
Yes.
Nye, yes. Roland,
Yes.
Roland, yes. Shapiro, David,
Yes.
Shapiro, David, yes. Shapiro, Todd,
Yes.
Shapiro, Todd, yes. Sherburne,
Yes.
Sherburne, yes. Southworth,
Yes.
Southworth, yes. Takahashi Real,
Yes.
Takahashi Real, yes. Thondon,
Yes.
Thondon, yes. Vikram,
Yes.
Vikram, yes. Witzke,
Yes.
Witzke, yes. Zoo, Zoo, yes. Young,
Yeah.
Young, yes. Zaki,
Yes.
Zaki, yes. Zukowitz,
The great neighborhood of Nomad, yes.
Zukowitz, yes.
I just have one announcement.
Let me just announce the vote. Vote passes yes, 34-001.
No voting on this one. I just want to let everybody know that the BEX committee has convened a task force on mental health. We've heard a lot of legislation and different ideas, and it's one of the biggest issues here in our district that we deal with. Moet has agreed to lead that effort. Kevin's going to be involved. Zul's going to be involved. Anybody else who wants to join, we'd really appreciate your help, and we'd love to have you on board. So just reach out.
All right, now before we move to,
So I would urge the task force to name themselves not only as a mental health task force, but given the closing of
Mount Sinai.
that it should be we cannot help. We don't do health in this city without mental health. We are the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene. So it all goes together, and in this particular time and era, it needs to be both.
We are keeping an eye on Mount Sinai Beth Israel and sending on this to the board, but yes, absolutely.
I'll join, I guess. If I can get out of the weeds.
all right, before we go to the next item, I'm giving one last opportunity for people to nominate for officer positions before we officially close it. Does anyone want to nominate someone else for any of the officer positions? Nope. All right, that's closed. So next we had 2 items on the agenda to discuss. We are frankly running out of time, so we have a couple options. Did you? Yeah. Oh, sorry. I slipped Slap. I'm so sorry. Slap, Janice.
I will be quick. Hi, I'm Janice. Quick welcome to the new members. You're almost there. As Vice Chair of SLAP, I'm stepping in for our Chair, David Sigmund, who you will hopefully meet soon, but please don't hesitate to reach out to David and me if you have questions about SLAP. So SLAP has taken primary responsibility for the Open Restaurants Task Force and reviewing applications for the Dining Out program. The task force, which used to be comprised of members from across all our committees, has been brought under SLAP now that the specific areas for review that remain for the community to weigh on have become less interdisciplinary and involve issues relating less to how structures fit into the neighborhood, for example, and more directly to how the eating and drinking establishments will be operating the spaces and how that may affect residents' quality of life. The application process is similar to those for liquor and cannabis. The legislation allows for a 30-day comment period, and as with the cannabis process, we have not been notified as to how many applications to expect, but applicants have until now to August 3rd to apply. We also get a second chance to review because restaurants need to apply separately for new liquor licenses for their outdoor sheds. In the meantime, we are creating standardized templates for liquor, cannabis, and dining out affidavits so that we can more efficiently process applications as a committee. We received 2 applications so far, one of which Todd, our Open Restaurants Task Force Chair, took on, scoped out, and reported back a positive interaction with the operator, as well as considerations for us to think about going forward as we work to formulate and standardize a review process in line with the regulations and timing constraints that we continue to get from the city and DOT. And I'm going to end with a shameless plug to new members to join SLAP and the Open Restaurants Task Force so you can jump right in and get involved.
Great. Todd, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I'll be brief. So for those of you who are new on the board, getting involved in the Open Restaurants Task Force is a wonderful opportunity to learn about the city and be right in at the start of the new part of learning the neighborhoods and building out a new regulatory structure. If you're interested, let the committee chair know, and it's just a great way to start your time on the board.
All right. Now that we are done with committee reports, we will move to new business. We have 7 minutes. We did have 2. Yes, Michael. Yes. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So because we frankly do not have time, we have 2 options, and I'm open. We should talk about it, maybe vote on it. We can either table them and then bring them back at another meeting, or we could refer them to the task force that Joe is chairing. I don't have a preference. Does anyone have any comment on those 2 options?
Meeting that these items were held at the last.
This is the second time that we ran out of time. And this is, and this is for the new members, this is the gist of a lot of the, problems we're having. I think these resolutions or some form of these resolutions will go a long way to helping this committee gel and get back to the business at hand. So we need to prioritize it. It's going to get, it's not going to get any easier for any of the board members if these matters aren't addressed. And for the benefit of the new board members, an emergency meeting was called to address these issues. Over a third of the committee members, as you probably have heard or read, a chunk of committee members have resigned. So we just need to prioritize. Let's get this done with and over with.
Yes, Michael. That committee will report to the executive committee in June, and then that executive committee will vote on matters that came from that committee, and then it will go to the full board in June as a proper committee, as a proper item, and not relegated to the end of new business. Correct. Correct. Does anyone have any concern with committing and referring these 2 items to the task force that was created that Joe is chairing, the Emergency Meeting Resolutions Task Force? Does anyone have any concern with that? All right, if there's no objection to that, that is what we'll do. We will commit, or we will refer these two items to that task force. Again, if you would like to join that task force, the membership is fully open. Just let me know and I will put you on that task force. I need to know within a week. So by Thursday, 7 days from today. Todd? Todd lowered his hand. Okay.
Yes,
so those,
yes. No, no, okay. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just very quickly. I just want to add my voice to Joe's. The substance of these resolutions goes to the heart of a lot of what you heard tonight. Please read through the resolutions and educate yourself. I played some small part in doing that at the and working with Joe. Please feel free to come and talk to us about it. We'll be happy to explain to you the background and context. Now that you're board members, you really owe it to yourselves, you know, to get involved and be able to make educated decisions about this. That's all.
all right. Todd, I hope you join that committee as well. We only have 3 more minutes. Charles? They will kick us out. Charles?
Very fast. Yeah, just want to let the new members know, you know, please watch, if you can, on YouTube, the emergency meeting. You know, 3 of the candidates, Samir, Anchor, and Noti Victor, are Open New York people. And remember that if you get to vote, do you want people in positions where they all are affiliated with the same lobbyist group? Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to, is there any other new business? Yes, we'll do that. Wait, referring to the committee? Yes, we will refer those 2 items to the committee by acclamation. Does anyone object? Seeing no objections, those 2 items are referred to that committee. Is there any other new business? Mike, is it new business or can it go into public session? All right, seeing no new business, we'll now move to public session. Mike. Just yell.
You go to the meetings in person because you're going to learn what LPC stands for. It took me like 4 meetings to learn. And you learn. And it's funny words. You learn all about it. And it's really, really interesting what's going on. You learn about the city. You want to learn about the city, you go to your meeting. Number 1. Number 2, I don't think I need that. Number 2, there's an exhibit at the Fashion Institute of Technology. Lisa isn't here now, so I have to help with that, of sleeves. I mean, they got sleeves that you could die for. You just go to this museum. It's on 27th Street, and you could see sleeves you never dreamed. Sleeves, beautiful sleeves, fashionable sleeves like that. Number 3, I have a tour. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I have a tour coming up that I think you should all go on. You could ask some of the people here, like Joe and Uran here, whose name backwards is Nare. Most people didn't know that.
We have 1 minute.
Taking my tour, that they're really interesting. I have a tour on the 14th, which is Tuesday, a garment district tour where you can learn how the garment center got to where it is today from the Lower East Side, where it started out, where people were taking work in to their apartments and stuff like that.
5 seconds.
I have to stop now?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, it is 9:45. Thank you everyone for being here. Is there anyone on the call who would like to speak to an item that was not discussed in the public hearing? Kosak? Sorry, Zool, please, Kosak. If this item has already been spoken on at the public hearing, it will not be allowed, but if it's not related, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair Open New York. You have shown your experience for cutting me off earlier when you let others speak for much longer. Clearly, you are afraid my words have gotten under the skin of Open New York and your crony, Manhattan sellout Mark Levine. I'm sorry, I mean Manhattan charlatan Mark Levine. Before you cut me off, I was going to say, Chair, you are complicit in Levine's outright corrupt actions. We have heard tonight a lot about trans issues, which no doubt is an important topic in New York City. However, all of you, let's please make no mistake. It is all smoke and mirrors. It is not a topic that Mark Levine cares 1 iota about.
That item was already covered in the public hearing and you spoke on it then, so you will not be able to speak on it again. Thank you for your comment. Seeing no other public speakers, this meeting